is, man. It's Cozmik, man. Hey, I've been telling them this where they need to be. Huh? 7 p.m. Eastern. We a little bit late, but hey, you gotta be patient. For the near shine. We got a special show tonight with Buddha E. This where you need to be to see Buddha E, baby, huh? Alright, so I'm gonna get out of the way. Buddha got it, and he gonna let the players play. You got it, bro.
Respect. Peace. Respect. Peace. Give thanks to y'all, the ancestors, and the energy, and how we get through the frequency. Through the queen and the queen of the sea, and how we be. And energy is collective. And we know collective energy. Thank you for our ancestors to have recognition towards our own selves and how we are connected by the darkness and the light, and how we use what's in the middle of our ancestors' energy is to find how collective we're using the fire, the earth, the air, and the river. This is connected by what we call the sir and face. So atmosphere, at some sphere, some of us never realize the atom in atmosphere is in a lot of us and how we think fear. Fear can be an element in how you have to represent yourself without saying, I am afraid of something. You want to actually face those fears, face those situations. And how do they come into that in the first place? Well, it's a perfect example where you are and how we say now, here, or nowhere. Nowhere and now here is the same concept. The W has to be spaced over. So I say NOWHERE. Nowhere is also NOWHERE. Now here. So when you think of points, what does points help you do when they relate to your sacred geometry? How do they connect back to, let's say, not even back? Something that you thought was not there is what keeps you forward. We're looking back to become forward. So it's usually your past that we want to have relativity to. Some of us are very much as an expert towards the past. However, the past doesn't define where we are in our present. Once we start to see what past is, now you're defining present. So to have a present is to now have a grip of what we look at the reality checks that we could have, as they call it, near future. So where do all of these come from? In zero, where zero start at, your origin, your placement, how you start to value things. And so today's topic is basically on how you come into power. And the only way you are going to come to it is to a point. Just like from a zero, you have to have a one. So the language usually starts you with what shapes you, what sounds you into who you are now. I'm going to read a little bit out of here. And so you get an idea of why I'm coming in with the 0-1 concept. Because, usually we're dealing with shapes. And shapes start to formulate in our mind what we don't realize. And then after a while, we start to realize. All right. So I'm on page 3. And the book is You Come to Power Only When You Come to a Point. And this is by Suzar. If you want to look Suzar up, she is on YouTube. So she does infinitely have some good information for you, so that you know more in tune with it. All right. So you come to power only when you come to a point. The power is the point. Focus at the point. Literally, ex- exudes, radiates, shoots from the point. When you come to a point, you come to power. You come to power only when you come to a point. Repeat, you come to power only when you come to a point. You don't enter or overstand that. You didn't understand or overstand that. The rest of this book will make it crystal clear only when the black race, or melanated, I'm gonna go with that, parent race of humanity comes to a point, which will it come to power regain to uh, will it come to power regain its siphon, hijack power? When or why does the power only comes from the point? Because the point is the intersection of life's two parallelities. The intersection is where creation happens. You can't come to a point unless you have 2 points, polarities intersecting. So I'm gonna pause right there for a second. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when we get into our deepest concepts and not have the balance, this starts to have a polarity, and will create a linear way of thinking, like left to right. If you're on the right, you're automatically going to go left. If you're up, you're automatically going to go down. If you're down, you're going to automatically go up. So it's just the idea of, now this is an inner and an outer conversation that most people don't really have, and how do they need to connect to that more. And it's basically saying that, your two is really four. Two plus two is still four. Two times two is still four. Uh, for it is the intersection that creates the point, and the point is the doorway for the power to come through. We witness this phenomenon personified as pyramid power. For this pyramid is the archetype of the point. Coming to a point is the point. When the point happens, point power happens, creation happens, and things well done. The goal, objective, purpose, intent will is achieved, and a new level, cycle, outwave can be reached. In fact, words like goal, objective, purpose, intent, and will all mean and point to the point. Dot circle goal. That's circle goal. CIRGOL. Putting them together, the goal and the circle, or circle, CIRCLE. Objective, with its capital O, lowercase BEGECTIVE, which is AP in sound, AK in sound, and TIV, active, active. So the purpose is a PER, as an example, per meter of the circle. Will is the actual will, turning to your desire, intent, focus. Now I know when I'm saying these things, they'll get already to a confusion, because this is how that parallel world starts. And we'll say one word, but it actually means something else. And then if you're not used to how it's hearing, or even how it's seeing a different way, it starts confusion. So this let us go down and confuse them is not just your talk. It's the angle behind the talk. The perception starts to unravel. Where are you from? That talks like that. Is it a habit? Is it your mannerisms? If you don't have any mannerisms, so now you're seeing ethnicity. So it goes through pathos, logos, and ethnos. These three are going to be the basic. The closer the point to the center, the greater the power. The greatest power is the center because the center equals balance, balance power. From the center point is the most potent and irresistible. From the center point of balance, our personal balance, we are the most powerful and have the most power, effectiveness, and ability to change. This aligns with the unmoved mover, which is only at the center point. Points have different degrees of sharpness. The sharper of the point, the smaller it is, yet the more potent it is. The increase in power and mm, proportional to its decrease in size. Zero or 0 point is the most effective, most powerful of all, theoretically, when it is in balance, and inside the balance, not just in balance, like not balance. Uh, i.e., at the true center, you can hold the source of a creation in the palm of your hand. Yes, even on the tip of a needle point. Now, of course, me saying that not like this because this is not on that same level, but yet, if I was to even say take a roundness, even in roundness, there's a point where this could have been just as round, but it was also could have been just a point like a cone. But because I can put my hand here, and if I was to, turn it around, I can easily turn it around because of that flatness, but more of a round and sharp. So it can actually spin when it comes down to it. So just like a top, you have to think like a pyramid, as above, so below. So now you're starting to see how the four corners, right, can be connected by the other that's at the bottom that makes it four corners coming back to that top, or should I say middle. That's why the pyramid is more of a diamond. The shape of it. Let's see if I show it. Got any over right here? I don't have any pyramid shapes around to actually get you in tune, but there is pictures in here. I'm gonna go further and we'll get more on that. All right, so okay, you can hold the source point at the creation and gain in the palm of your, wait, okay, in the okay, you can hold the source point of creation in the palm of your hands. Yes, even on the tip of a needle point. This inconceivably tiny thing is the mama of all universe. Compare this to the black hole or the star matter so dense that a teaspoon weighs over 100,000 pounds. The ZER of zero is ZAR, which in reverse is RAZ. RAZ like raise or rise. Razor, RAZOR, the point, meaning zero, ZERO, and the O, or the point, that's sharpest. Letter Z itself is a double RA with the ZOR. ZOR of zero, ZER slash O, is also SAR. You hear the word zir or SAR. So zero is also sorrow, zero, meaning top, chief, queen, apex, capstone, eye, and the capstone triangle. Triangle points to the power of the peak, PE, with an A, capital K, capital AK, acme for the center is also the peak of the pyramid. I was talking to a sister and she was like saying like the woman's skin is the acne. But we're saying the acne is the whole overall as well and not just the center. And so we were getting into the word acne being like skin, skin being like derma, derma being 7 layers upon 8 and 9, black and the white. Um, 7 layers of skin is tones. That black and white is the light and the dark between those tones. So that's why there's a lot of when we look at 9 as a dimensional line, it's based on 10, 11, 12. We don't see. So the 3 point in the back of the head is missing. Usually when we're drawn into a circle, right? We're drawn into a circle. For example, we're drawn into a circle. So now as the circle, as we draw into the circle, here's the point. And here's the outside. So when we do this, this would be a 1, this would be a 2, this would be a 3. This would be your first section of life, birth. However, that's not your first section. That's the first in appearance to you who's watching me. Who's watching me is not seeing this back here, the back triangle that's missing back a part of it. What most people would end up seeing is the 2 sides. So that's 1, 2 split here. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4 sides to make this a pyramid, which means this first one is 120. This second one is 240. This third one is 360. And this fourth one makes it a 380 for the circle to actually come out of its flat. To come out of its flat, it had to create a center. This represents the 480 degrees because it's going from an oval shape versus just a flat 360 line. This is what changes a lot of people who think one way and end up being stuck another one. There's another example here. You see the circle having lines. Usually when you put lines in it, it's masculine. When you circle, you're feminine. So when we put circles and lines for people, we start explaining it from that aspect. One is masculine, the other one's feminine. So when we say 0, we say that's feminine. We wouldn't say 0 is masculine. We say 0 is feminine because it's round. So logically, we never escape from solid, liquid, and gas. Solid, solidify, liquid, eat it, gas it out. We're going to always have these elemental ways of thinking. Now, if you're based off of it and not see it why it's not helpful for you, then you're not going to utilize it. And you'll say, this is the part where, I like ignorance and I want to stay in it because I feel like that's more captivating towards me. I wouldn't say stay into ignorance. I want you to know more into yourself. So why would I give you these things? Only so you can say, these are things that might adjust me differently. I might have to start now thinking differently. I start going back, what we call it, going forward to ground zero. See where the background started at. You was born at one particular point, but you was already here at a particular point as well. Let that sink in while I read you the rest. Power comes to its peak, P-E-A-K, with the A-K being emphasized as capital letters, at the center point, which point is capital P. The higher up the apex you go, especially your own personal divine apex center, the greater your power and influence on the closer you are the apex people, VIPs. The more power influence you likely have or appear to have. If only by association. Unity means coming to a point. Unity at one point. Oh wait, Unity is UNITY, which is ONE, and then ITY, oneity. Word one in word one is a point. It equals a point. The word PO, well, point with the word OIN in the middle, it contains the word ONI, which is one, or ONE, is the essence of unity and the point. UNI of unity is a variant spelling of one. UNI equals one. A small but unified group has vastly more power than a huge but fragmented group. Group power equals the square of the number of people within a group. Hence, 100 unified people sharing a common goal produces 10,000 units of energy. This is why they were telling you all we need is 1/10 of the earth to wake up to what I'm speaking on in this form of a consciousness. The word more than likely you'll start waking up the 10,000s or the hundreds of the 10,000 and so forth. Um, but 100 fragmented, not unified people produces only 100 units of energy. Now get this: if you unify a small group where accidentally balanced and awaken, their power would be quantum. Instead of 10,000 units, it might be 10 million or billion units. In fact, it could just be a handful of people having the power of having the same kind of having this kind of power. Currently, this principle negatively exists as the handful of Pinke, Pinke family who appeared to control the world. Their power, however, is no power. It is stolen power, and there is an evidence that usually these people are not real, as they call it, humans that are shape shifting, as we know it. Uh, they live in Planet V, reptilian hybrids who are further controlled by the Chitauli. So it's Chitauli, which is an African name for the reptilian overlords who clandestinely have been controlling, manipulating, and vampirizing the humanity for thousands of years. And there's more books on it, but you get it from books of books and videos by Credo uh, Mutwa and then also David Icke. Therefore, when balanced true power is finally restored, it is ultimately revealed over the unbalanced power and reverse the present deadly conditions threatening all humanity, the albino or albinos, uh, known as the WIT or WYT people, uh, really pink, PINKE, people who come at all shades of red, seem to know the importance of being one, or UNITED, as is United States, the UNITED kingdom. But their unity is fragile and false because albinos and the Chertali, they predominantly control them, have significant magnetic, which is the word black, core to hold their unity together. There is not true unity, but imposed bondage. Reflect in the fasces, which we call fasces, FASCES. Um, their top emblem of authority and domination. Counterfeit unity quickly fall apart falls apart when its bonds dissolve. Real unity is the magnetic affirmation attraction, which holds things together. Being deficient, being deficient, being deficient is magnetic polarity needed to order to cross themselves. Lackers usually privilege their polarity. So usually when you think of how we enslave ourselves, you usually are creating your enslavement, not actually saying, "Oh, I've been slaved up." So a lot of our people who talk that they're in trouble or they're hurt usually put the hurt on themselves. You really got a solution, and we end up dwelling more into the problem than actually saying the solution was already here, and I'm going towards that and address that fully. So as our people, we call Black BLAK people, which we know as humanities or melanated people. Parents are the true original guardians and owners of the earth. The throne of Kemet is the ancient Black Egypt. We know ancient is really the word towards Egypt, so we don't really have to say both of those words by just combining the words and say Kemet or Kibalon. Was the Godhead of earth and seat of apex capstone of the greatest power. Melanated people have not lost power. They have been put in the spell of Go, which also is OG backwards, right? While this rich power is hijacked to keep the beast fat. Really, the whole planet, it is in this reptilian bondage spell, and it gives details in a book called 666 series. Largely sacred through not but limited to religion, a word being bondage. Humanity's melanated parents as a whole will come to a point as the members, especially our melanated women, come to a point. It is necessary for all or even most of our melanated to come to a point before the parent race can come to a point. Only a small percentage is needed. This critical mass will be the catalyst causing an alchemical chain reaction in the collective body of the humanity's parents. As a result, the whole melanin uh, race, we're going to just say without doing it as nationality, will be affected and come to a point, hence point, and finally, again, be in the control and charge of itself. Afterwards, the whole body of humanity, our melanin of our children, will come to a point as a direct result of their parents breaking the spell and awakening. Yes, this is the part of the great healing and liberation of all humanity on earth. And humanity is another way of looking as a whole aspect. We got more concepts that we gave ourselves through, nationality, the tribes, the clans. To don't get confused when humanity is being called up. Is not saying just one hue. Hue is like the argumentative one. So to have two hues argument finding a solution, you see that hue is not only, seem to be as the argumentative one, is also meaning once you disagree, you find a way to agree. And that's through your own collective resources, restoring, registering yourself as the knowing notion from what griot, Christ consciousness, to even pre-Islamic notions. We have to go further in our takes on things, so that way you won't have to say, well, this is the only book I've read. Well, if this is the only book you've read, can't there be other books? And if it's not, is it in cuneiform that it changed from hieroglyphic, hierotech, and then we see that the dead language became cuneiform. So when we say the dialect has changed, it's only because we looked at the Hellenistic dynasty, the pyramid, that we as a period knew, but now it's been a pyramid in thought. So this is why I had to bring all of this up. The point is the intersection of life's two primal polarities. It is the intersection that creates the point. The intersection is the great cross. Now, I know you always hear the cross, but when you think of cross, have you ever thought about the cross not just being this way, but also being this way? See, when 2021 came in, it was expressing this great cross that came in, and it showed us from that it was this cross instead of this cross. And I was like, oh shoot, there's something different about the world and how we're looking at things. So it became a wake-up call, right? It is this intersection that creates a point, the intersection, the great cross of paramount significance. That's why the equilateral cross in multitudinous design or variation, we'll just say variation, are found throughout our world cultures. The great cross or equilateral cross is cosmic. Do not confuse this with the crucifix, the cross of death. You hear crux and you hear fix, like fiction. Horizontal is the principle, left to right. Vertical is the principle, up and down. The cross is the intersection that crosses or crashes. Intersection crashes into a point, a center point. Example up here. And then you see how that works down there. This and that, combinating, creating the 8 versus just 2 becoming 4. 2 becoming 4. 2 times 2 is 2 plus 2. That's why that made sense to you. And you know, if you 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 plus 4 is 6. So they had to show you the 6-pointed star, you know, that's created into an 8 realm. Because if I put that 6 on top of the other 6, it's 2 circles. You can always have this realm of crisscrossing into each other. You know what I mean? You got to use your circle and your line, whether it be diagonal, whether it be straight. You'll figure out how the world is intersections of points of why masculine is a time, while woman is of nature. Without expression of time, there's a space, and then there's time in the space. That's where your experience, X, and experience will be coming out as an X. As an X is the same as an X. Okay, so anyway, why is the equilateral cross so significant? It is first and most basic definition is the center of creation. It defines the point which the 2 points intersect is God, goddess. The center of creation, a portrait of the foundation cosmos, the ancient, as we call it again, I'm going to just say a Kibbalan, astrologic cross of the 4 corners, combine 2 primal visions of the cross, which is the plus or an X, which they use as EX as an example, is the actual plus sign, and the time sign, which we were showing earlier, yields the super powerful double cross. That means it could be above and it be a below one. So 1 above, 1 below gives you this double X, a double cross, which you see from Peter the Cross upside down concept. All right, so yield the super powerful double cross. Naturally inherits the geometry of the pyramid. In fact, the pyramid is three-dimensional form of the double cross. Attempting to tap this power, many beyond nations, now to give you nations, such as Britain, which we know here, Virginia being Britain Island. They wanted to create Virginia tobacco, the combination of London tobacco to Britain tobacco of London. So they were still connecting some kind of here to there, cross and X. We'll talk about that later. Use the double cross to the principal begin of this national flag. Oh, there we go. And many major Albion corporations such as Aeron, Exxon, having the double cross or pyramid design into your logos. So when we said pathos, logos, and ethnos, you're starting to see where people who, like let's say Wonder Woman, she had a 5-pointed star on her. And the 5-pointed star in most people's languages would represent Allah. Arm, leg, arm, head. That's 5. So when she's standing in expansion, we see man, but she's not wrong for what she's doing. She's showing us woman. Now, what the field did was show us opposite of a masculine trait in a woman. And that's what we kind of fall short on when we speak on shapes define, our symbols, or symbols are being defined by shapes. I'm gonna finish this and I'll tell you why I said all that. Personifying the cosmos, the hue body personify a double cross. Hence, both versions of the cross include the eternal Ankh, right? Standing straight with the arms out to the sides. Now that's like how I just go from left to right. But my legs can be going the opposite way. So going from opposite this way to left to right that way, right? And that's your whole body standing. If you were looking at a bird's eye view, looking down at yourself, you have a cross, right? This is the example right here. This is started from being here. The 0 being at the top again, like the head. Now you're seeing yourself split from left to right, which is masculine and feminine, which most people took religion and made it bad versus good. And then you have this center at the top and the bottom. The center will be still the top and the center will still be the bottom. But if you could imagine this in a diamond shape, it's still putting that in the circle, in the square. You see what I'm saying? So we also learn solid liquid gas is also connected by square, triangle, and circle. So square of the head, right? Triangle of the heart, and circle of the hips. And the reason why I say that, because there are 3 fires. The 3 fires are basically, the fire in the head is Aries. And I know most people, y'all don't want to use your sign. However, that takes you out of your own time. And you have to start putting your time back so you can see why your sign was there in the first place. The sign was the description to the whole clock, the clock of destiny that even Noble Drew Ali gave us, based on his concepts and truths that found out what the temple still had to give towards our people. One of them was the clock of destiny and how you're originally 6 zodiacs, yet it was cut in half, like we was explaining about the diamond. It was cut in half. So to have half on one side, half on the other is the Jesus sitting with the 12 disciples. You have to see 7 on one side and 7 on the other. Now, what's changed in our time is how the shadow changes at 6 or 7 o'clock. Now it'd be 8 or 9 o'clock when it's supposed to be 6 or 7 o'clock. You see what I'm saying? But it'll get so now that it'd be 4 or 5 o'clock. So that's why, there's a gap of darkness in between. That is a third body that we don't talk about. There's a in-between body. There's 3 seasons, not 4. We've put that 4th season in as to describe somebody's energy that's collectively described themselves here. And that's why we can't really escape this energy until we start recognizing where the energy is coming from. You can't say that it's all winter time the whole time when you realize some of it's based on autumn. Yet some of it has failed. So we said it's the falling of man. And this is why we think when children are born in that era or that time, they're the falling of men or women. And this is what describes the 3 months that's taken off from the 12 months. December is like saying 10. It's not saying 12. Like decimal. Des. So you're describing 10. You're not describing 12. So in our mind, we're actually might be saying, yeah, you're right, it's 10. While another way you're thinking, okay, it's 12. You're writing it down by the number. Yet the way that the fiscal or fastest is being put when we drop the ball, why are we dropping the ball? Why are we not raising the ball? We learn how to put things together and rise it up. We call it building. You see what I'm saying? So why would we be falling? But someone will want you to think by the end of the so-called year, which is not the end, yet it's the beginning of somebody's season, which could be the end of how we think in our seasons, there's a ball that drops. Now you're saying 10 all the way on down to 1. And then you say Happy New Year when you're in 0. So it's to use the same information but distort it, so everybody run around with distorted information saying this is how we got a new year, when you know the new year clearly is in the spring going into summertime. So that's why the seasons aren't really addressed in the way it should be. There is a format being put and escaping the actual rough reality that seasons were based on holidays and how these people put holidays in through your calendar. And that's not everybody's calendar. Not everybody's on a focus of holidays. We're on a focus of constellational change. Like this is the 13th moon cycle right now, and we're changing into it now, coming into the 14th. Well, I would say going back into the first, again, beginning state of moon cycles. And some of us are into the sun cycle, and we were not stating that. So that's why you feel one angle of the sun and not the angle of the moon, changing your personality versus your characteristics. This is why when you turn your back on people, they feel like you gave them the cold shoulder. All right, so personifying the cosmos, the Huhu body personifies the double cross, hence both crosses, both versions of the cross, including the eternal Ankh standing. No, please don't come up here with that. Standing straight with the arms out on the side, standing with the legs apart, arms out, and hands above level, head level. For the humanity is a microcosm. Is a microcosm of the macrocosm and a marriage of polarities, uniting the male and the female polarities, which we say man and woman. We don't usually say those terms. The Ankh is the cross of the regeneration. Hold on 1 second. Excuse me. I said please don't bring all that up here.
As y'all can see, Buddha will be right back. We're taking a small commercial break. No worries. No worries in the vegan flurries. Not McFlurries. All right. Here go E. No worries, G. I got you. I'm going to turn the music down. Hold on. I got you. All right. Go ahead. You got it.
I give thanks to that. And it's good to hear your children in the background. They are reasons why we are alive. We have to have that energy. We have to have this. If you haven't heard the word Aminta or Amina or Aminette, these words came back out to have that fun, have that childlike, have that spirit that some of us are lost, and I can see it in a lot of us. We're starting to decay, and there's a purpose behind it. You didn't express yourself long enough in a room. You didn't put your feet, your legs. You got to expand your body in the room. So as children, they're the most expansive ones in the room, and I know it'd be a threat to people who live in a flat format. That's why the expansion, confirmation, the flatness will be a point of saying you're not in tune yet, and you have to find how to in tune with yourself like child. Not just childlike, like child. So those are those points. Be excited, be in tune with nature more. So that way, once it's unnatural, you say, "Oh, okay, that's unnatural." Now I dilute that, and now I realize what is the actual natural way of it, the nurture way. So nurturing each other, you'll find more concepts of how we're really putting our nation building back together. All right, so I said about the Ankh and how the Ankh is the cross of the regeneration, hence the cross of life. And the top view of the body also reveals the cross of the four corners. Now, when I'm saying that, that's just like if I put a line in between my head, which is an imaginary line, because that's what man can only do, imaginary, make a line. You can't create the line in nature unless you just cut unnaturally to create that. The line is straight. The world, like even with Terrace Howard's, he was saying you can go straight home, but you're not going straight. You got to curve. You got to take a left or a right. It's not usually straight. So when we talk about straight from left to, up to down or left to right, that is illogical. Yet we created that logical. So now we got to look at naturally. You might have to go down or up or curve left to curve right to get to where you're going. That's like on the water. You can't just go straight on the water, the wind hitting you. You got to tic tac. You got to go like the snake move to end up going where you need to go to. Same thing in the air. And we'll talk about that later. All right. So the reveals the four corners. The legs are vertical lines, right? They designated by the legs. Most common motion, walking. And you know how your legs end up doing this. So they're doing this left to right or vertical conversation. It's doing vertical conversation. And that vertical conversation is one, right? So then you got your arms, which is horizontal. So they go from this way to that way, this way to that way. And we'll end up either grabbing a left doorknob, grabbing a right doorknob, grabbing a left handle, grabbing a right handle. And so you're always using it in a horizontal line, designated by the arms, most naturally wing-like, outstretching to the sides. So that's why we know Ma'at as balance. We put our wings up, our arms up is like our armory. So we put all of this as how we, can love from the heart because we're getting hugs. We're giving out hugs towards the people. Huge is a hug. So we want that intimate feeling. You open up your cross basically. At the intersection is head itself. So this is why the head and the heart and also the hips are important. Those are the three H's, the three heaters, the solid, the liquidate, and the gassing it out. Gas is in the hips. Hips is Sag, SAG, GAS. That's the gas. That's the Sag, the sagittal line. So it's a lot that will make sense to you. You just got to put it in what elementary school did give us. Don't feel harsh that they didn't give you anything. They gave you enough to work with because it was already there. They just happened to separate some pieces so that you think it has no significance, no value. So that way, when you do get into certain type of heated situations, it wasn't because you wasn't thinking with the head, or was it because you wasn't thinking with the heart, was it? Or was you thinking with the hips? Sometimes when you think with the hips, it's just like the scenarios of how wise you are. When we rode in on the donkey, that wasn't just you riding in on the donkey. That was an expression of the Libra learning how to become its Sagittarius self. The Libra is the balance. The Sagittarius is the hips. But when we go from balance, which is the scales, your back, going to your pineal, your pituitary gland, that's why 7 is under 6. Why is 6 scared of 7? Because 6 is the belly of the beast. 5 is where the heart will be under that or in it. You know what I'm saying? So it creates be the east in the energy. Knowing your west is your back. So when you're on your backside, they say you're a snake or you're in your shadow self. But that shadow is you shadow working. Like work is really your hours. You got to do your shadow work hours. So shadow hours is in your work. How much do you do in the darkness that you create light that's helpful, not hurtful? Your light can be something uplifting versus something heavy as light. You know what I mean? Light can be heavy because it's fire. So whenever you thinking about fire, fire is your physical form put on earth. And now is it air that's balanced? Is it because it's on earth? Because it's actually in earth. So now you creating gravity, G with gravity on earth. When you look at water, water's reflection. So how much is it an intersection of reflection? You see reflectively of yourself, or you don't see it. It's widespread. You know, that's why a lot of the symbols from square and the triangle and the circle have multiple meanings. The circle meaning mutal, so it can go anywhere, left, right, up, down, in the center, out the center. While the square is cardinal, thinking logical. Let me see the left, the right, the up, the down. Yet it's through the intersectional pieces that it really can see or define itself. So that's why that center is still important, no matter how square you are, no matter how circular you are, because it comes back to this triangle. What's the point that you have in the situation? So a triangle being is a fixed being. So we got Taurus, we got opposite of Taurus, Scorpio, and then we got Leo. Opposite of Leo is Aquarius. Those are 4 points. They're going to be the 4 points of who thinks like this, fixed. They're going to either see it this way, that way, or don't want to see it at all. And then there's fixated. They might be able to fix it, or they ain't, because they're fixated on something else. They got a different way of looking at it. So that's why the points are important. These people are in your lives, is why I'm throwing all this out there. Some of us think squarely, so logically we think. It gotta make sense. I don't want to use my imagination. Don't put all that in there. Just give me some numbers, something that is already concrete. And that's how you're not gonna say, "Oh, I fully agree with you," because you're a mutal person and you think through imagination. However, if you have some imagination along with some of the logic and then some of the fixation, you can put all of these things, because fixation is not always bad. Fixation is, you can fix certain things. Sometimes you might go too hard in it and it end up being broken. So just like with logic, some of the logic can be great, but then if you're speaking from an anal point, you're not going to, that person not going to listen to you because you've been anal about it, you know. So the same thing about mutal. Just because you don't decide don't mean that everybody likes a person that don't have decisions already made. They want to see what works out best, but that's through creation. So there's levels of how do we grasp each other, and there's going to be 3 based on the 4, right? And that's where you get that 7 from. Therefore, the triangle signifies both the innermost core by pointing to it and the height of heights. For the point is the tip top, the AK, the foremost point of the apex, which is APX, EX, the capstone slice of the pie. That's what a triangle is, literally pointing to the center point. And you'll see letterings. You see the letterings, how letterings like X and K, that's why they're very similar. When you see a K, it's a straight line, but that the pyramid or the triangle is the K in the center of that line. So now you're seeing how K, even without having a line on it, when you draw the letter K and it's capital K, you can see the triangle without having to use the line. And this is why you see masculine as the line and no longer circular, but now they call it vertical being put into place. And that's the curve. It's still a curvature. We just didn't call it that. So when we drew the letter M, there's these 2, you know what I'm saying, intersections happening here. This is masculine while this is feminine. So now we put feminine and masculine and you have a letter M. Same thing as N. When the N is written, there's 1 line here and 1 line there. But that this diagonal from here to there is the reason why these 2 can connect to make an N. So that's the opposite way because you're looking on that screen. But that's how you're starting to see like a L, it's actually like a T. You know, the L is a T. It just looked from one perception versus the other. You see what I'm saying? So when I say there's only 2 sides of the street, it's more than that. It could be 3. It could be 4. I'm just paralleling the conversation first. So if someone says it's only good and it's only bad, that's not the truth. It's the idea of you're paralleling the world, and some of us are stuck in that parallel world. Some of us are stuck with it so much that if you're pretty, I'm ugly. If you're rich, I'm poor. However, that's not the balance of it. That's why we got to really see where's the balance coming from. All right. So I'm gonna keep going. I got like uh, I'm gonna get to page 12 out of this book, and you'll see where I'm going at. And then once I start to re-emulate the whole idea, why we even speaking this way, I can get into this book here. It's the Vedic astrology. You want this book around too, the Vedic astrology. Now, I've had arguments, I've had debates, but because of the arguments and debates, you need to research the books. Can't do it right now, sister. You got to research. Yeah, okay, respect. When we come out of the books, we're actually seeing that it's not a book thing, it's the logic that had to have reasoning. And because the logic had to have reasoning, the 0 had to be connected to the 1. You can't come off your umbilical cord without being able to breathe this air. And because karma and dharma has been playing waiting on who's the next or who's coming up with the official, it's not even about who. That's the argumentative one. And that's why we even say the word now who, because it's like another argumentative of the argument. And it's the young generation versus the old generation versus the young, and the rich versus this what made these two become 4. And time is time, it's 4. You know what I mean? So when we use the word for, FOUR, the lettering itself is helping to express why it has that purpose behind all these others. That's the window. That's the official. I can now create a 4 realm, a fear, the elements, fire, earth, air, and rain, towards the regular people. And when we're based in fear, that's why the point has to come out. All right. So let's go into that. The word POINT, the O, the I, and the T, itself contains 3 forms of the point. The circle, which is letter O, the dot over the I, and the T, intersection of the 2 lines. The masculine and feminine are polarities corresponding to the vertical and horizontal lines. The intersection of such lines creates which defines the point in the middle of the eye and over the eye. In the middle of the eye and top of the eye, hence, is simultaneously the deepest and highest. The tip of the capstone equals the point which all sides of the pyramid share. The eye as the tip, AM, the body under the tip. The capital I, narrowest and most vertical line, and capital M, the broadest, most horizontal of letters, yields the vertical and horizontal lines of the cross of the 4 corners. Further, numerologically, they total 4. I equals 9, M equals 13. This sum is the master number of 22, which we say 2 plus 2 is 4. Another reason why I was bringing that up is the M is 13. This like saying A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, M, 13. So that went from 10 to now 3, 13. And then, of course, we were talking about the I is 9. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. That's why we say numbers is the letters, and the letters are shapes, and the shapes are actually sounds. And we know the sounds of the shape will get the patterns, which was why they were calling it shapes in the first place. So the head is the top center of the conception, which is the I, and the body is the torso expression, which is the M, which is AM. This is why they created the I am. When we think of the I am, you're thinking of just like how the apex of a triangle has the pyramid at the top. The lines that separate that pyramid is usually to think of how the ground is like a shadow. The square with the X is the top view of the Great Pyramid. The top view of the Great Pyramid reveals the Great Cross of the Four Corners. Now, keep in mind, Giza is also the same as Tikal in America. As a matter of fact, you have older mounds that's older than the pyramid. So this is why this book has some revision to it. There's nothing wrong with it. It just does other parts that can be added along with this to help signify why you're in your noun state. Because you're wanting to know how this ties with here, right? That's why we're here giving you this piece. All right, so the top view of the Great Pyramid reveals the Great Cross of the Four Corners. It is both an X and a plus sign. And this X and plus, you witness 7 as the L or V, but especially the point. You, your ego, that thing in you that knows it exists can distinguish itself from the others and sees, S-E-Z, sees I am, or says I am, S-E-Z. And the fifth is the fifth, which is known as the L, E-L, or fifth element in the middle, which is the lines of the 4 L's intersection. And that's when I was explaining here, the 4 sections of a square. But then when you put that X in the middle, there's a 5th section here intersecting. That makes it 5 instead of 4. So the 5 and 4 is just like the 3 and the 4. You can see 3 sides, but it's really on the other side, you see a 4th side. So when you're at the top, you're thinking 4 sides, but as the center, you can make a 5th side. Example, when we're talking about this, has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. And then if there's a center, that's a 5th side. If it's inside, you wouldn't think of it unless you to go inside of that to see the circle has a center. That's why drawing a dot on a wall or a dot on a piece of paper, your imagination won't go as far. It'll limit yourself from the parallel world, not seeing the parallel in the world. That's what makes it more of a difference. So we're talking about the square with the X is the top of the Great Pyramid. The top view. Hold on one more second. All right, so the square of the X is the top view, the Great Pyramid. The top view of the Great Pyramid reveals the Great Cross of the 4 corners. It is both the X and the plus sign. And these, you witness 7, letter L, and the V, but especially the point. You and your ego, the thing in you that causes it to exist and can distinguish itself from others, and says I am, is the 5th L or 5th element in the middle. When the line of the 4th L intersects, matching the cross, the human body is the 4th L. or bends, angels in one. Hence, you, the Hu being, is the intersection of the cosmic force, forces, four C's, as four E's, or 4X, which you hear X as in AKS or AX. AK, the point. The,
Peace, God.
yes,
Pardon
I
self.
respect.
We got a couple comments. We got a couple comments. So someone said, so the zero is interchangeable, and
Yes,
then we have Mr. Let me see. Let me see. Mr. B. Cope.
oh yeah, yeah. Respect.
Heavy science. You say heavy science. So you know what I mean. We got the comments flying through. Go ahead and keep rocking.
Respect. Respect. The quarters, or what we call force, contains fork. Like the force is also a fork. Like you created, your forces are also a fork, like a fork in the road. So when you're thinking of another way of saying the angel, you're using the angle, right? And the force is power and it's energy. It's basically your force is in a position. So power can be deadly if used in the wrong hands. You heard of that. So it goes in that same way. So when it comes to force that goes throughout the point, the fours and the midpoint of a seven, the heart number, which is the heart being the center point now, most of the point or point of the points. And now the V vibrates to 22. So even if you went down the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, going all the way down to R, S, T, U, V, the V will be the actual 22nd letter. There's no mistake on how the letters are defining themselves as a number. It's a mistake when we don't value the term that the numbers are describing for those letters. So while we're using these, like to speak, I'm saying things to you and not put it down on paper so I can see what I'm actually saying in the numbers, will distort how I feel when I'm giving this expression. Now, the expression could be majority, yet because I'm using these letters and unaware of how the power can have a significant value, I can't get the majority to hear me. You see what I'm saying? Or the majority to want to listen to it. So it's based on how our ways of thinking. The ways of thinking is not just ways, it's waves of thinking. So that was what we were speaking on. Remember when we were doing this, the 9 waves of communication is based on conception, how it's made up on birth. Then that conception is like based on contraction to the earth. So now is conception, inception. Where did it start? Perception. The actual, it's already started. You just didn't see it. Now you're seeing a different perception to it. Uh, Reception is the reciprocity. How does it work? And it's based on deception. If you didn't see it on the base of the 5, the 4 becoming 5. So now with septions, you have interception, the Hail Mary. Somebody threw the Hail Mary. But yet it's interception. You have to go inside yourself to find that. Then there's I didn't accept it. There's the X. But now you got to have an X with an A. Exception. I accept now. I know what now I don't have to accept. The X has to be, you know where you're at. Now you're here. You see what I'm saying? So those X's are very important. Don't just completely call your woman an X and not know. Malcolm X was also as the unknown. And we saw how El Haj was his superior leaving the area of physical form made him more aware of his L. And that's why this is important to like lay it down again. Lay down the L's. As you see this brother right here, he got his L's around him now. So when we say angels or angels, this was a law and civic conversation. You have to know your pyramid, how you arise yourself. And since we erect like a building, this is what we call spiritual building. We building right now in this sacred space more of ways um to not just critical think yourself or criticize yourself, critique yourself in ways that the angles are going to be helpful. You know, the I wasn't just one, I meaning a lot, but because we use it so much, we as the W inverted towards in the diagonal are three, one, two, three, four lines pushed into one. The W is the value. The W is the value of self. So we see it as a 3, we see it as an M, we see it as an E, and they change up, even though the W R S T U V W is the 5th letter. News in no N is the 5th letter. Let's take away the S. The E is the 5th letter and the W is the 5th letter. All of those have a significant value. If you look at Fox, A, B, C, D, E, F is 6. F is the 6th letter. O is the 6th letter. And X is the 6th letter. So you're seeing how it works in you decoding not only just through A to Z, decoded through the numbers 1 through 9. And if you want to just say that sounds too hard, well, don't do it through numerology. Just go through 1 through 26 as all the letters come out. You'll start to see how no matter what, whether it's a big number or a small number, it's going to still have the value of 9, giving you the notion that you are doing numerology. You've been doing numerology. Mama gave you numerology when you was born. Now it's the fact that you got to learn the number system that was put out here. Then you learn your system, because that's what's more important right now. After you learn those things, are you really going to be in tune with your time? So now that I said that, I'm gonna read. I got 2 more pages. I'm gonna show you the book that I'm talking about, and we could just end with that, because these 2 pages right here is going to really break a lot of the cobweb. I felt cleaned up a lot for me. All right, so putting to the fact that we each are L's. That's the letter L and the lettering of EL. EL meaning divine being. We are each a divine being having the same 4 essential parts in the source. The will, which is feminine, is magnetic. The spirit, which is masculine, is electric. The heart, which is the union of the will and the spirit. And then the body, the manifestation of our whole being. Yes, this relates to the classical 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire, overseen by the 5th element called consciousness. Now, we hear it a lot because we talked about it in the etheric point of view. And we said that was the easy line. That was from, was it KT, the arts degree. He dropped some jewels on that when I was looking at him on solid liquid gas and what was that meaning. The 6th ether, 666, is the non-ether being drained. When I say 666, that's just the beginning etheric embryo egg womb that we're seeing from a dimensional skin pigmentation, non-pigmentation, to now having pigmentation. This explains the 7 layers of skin intonation from the albino, which we say is our lightest complexion, to our darkest hue color. That's why we're saying who as in who. Before you saying who as in argumentative, it might have been from one dark to one light conversation. We don't know the difference. So this is why we do have to explain ourselves, not to say we're prisoners as a slave, but a lot of us said we were a slave before we were a prisoner. Okay, so the consciousness, the I am, the human body has 4 appendages: the 2 arms, the 2 legs, and plus the head. The head is the eye. The the radiations are 4 corners of the cross, right? So it's in the center of the body, right? So when you think of that letter L, is both feminine and masculine. Its vertical lines is masculine. Its horizontal line is feminine. Letter L is the angel, ink L. The two lines, anking, connecting, defining, creating the point. Letter L is the version of the rule. Now, I like the letter L because it's going to help you figure out your left from your right. And remember, when you write the R, you're going to see what I'm saying. Or builder square. L is the 12th alphabet. And since the alphabets are astrological, the L is the quarter of the astrological cross, the four corners being a corner itself. Many images of seated Kamite deities of royalty depicts the seated on the fat, black, thick, upside down L. Previously noted, the L is the basic shape of the human body in profile. The extra special as an X is another basic form of the cross, making marks the point, making 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 a marking as the point. Why is the X called EKS or EX or AX? Because ax is AK as the AK, as the peak, PEAK, or BEAK. Point, capstone, peak in the beak, and the X is the top view of the pyramid. Looking down and on the top of the pyramid, you see the sides covering in the center, forming the X. These intersection lines equal the AK tip, which is say the point, as seen from above. EX also means exit, go out. Apparently, from the fact the energy literally goes out as the APEX, apex, tip of the pyramid. The word X is from Kemetic AK, which meaning to enter, going in and out. And you reverse that, you also have Ka, which is creation. To obscure its African Afrakan, not just AFRIC, is AFRA, the Ra inside. Khan, African roots, while no, African roots, white Wallace Budge spells AK with a Q, hence AQ. So the letter AQ is really AK. To enter, going in and out, AX or EX, in out. Sunrise and sunset, entrance and exit. Budge, that was him on page 38. Oh yeah, and Wallace Budge also got the book of Ani, the walking from the day of the Walking Dead, Day of the Walking. Let me pull it out. This one here. It is the Kemetic book of the dead, the papyrus of Ani, which is the Wallace Budge. He gives a lot of the expressions in the caricatures, and that helps you out as well in your glyphs. So yeah, you're gonna have to definitely grab some stuff, some arsenal, put it in your vault. Energy moves in a circle, a spiral, bringing as to X, which is the TION, to action, a CTION. For the plus sign is now turned, becoming a whirling swastika, which they use a KA in there. This is dope how they use the letter. AXLE is axle. AXIS is axis. This axis is your eye. When you, a center of creation. The whole universe revolves around the axis. U simultaneously revolves around all the other U's outside of you. For in essence, they are all the same. All you, the one ego, AKO, or that is AK, center of the X, the point created where the lines intersect. Point at the center of the intersecting lines. The great I, AK, of self, soul, point at the center, which all the intersecting lines have in common. The O dot I, the I in the OIO or IU is basically YOU. You get it? Or YOU. 8 is the oct wave, especially another special point. Before I show you that, I wanted to give you the picture. This was the L they were describing sitting on the L, right? And then this is your the apex, how most people will see it, whether it's flat bird's eye view, seeing the center, and then of course the top being the apex. All right, so we're talking about the 8 having an intersection of the line into the circle. Okay, numeral 8 has the point, a turning point which unites opposites like the 8 astrological sign of Scorpio, which expresses both creation and destruction, or birth and death. Birth and death, life, light and darkness. Scorpio is the only sign anciently representing by the three symbols: the scorpion, serpent, and the eagle. I hope y'all grasp that one, because this is how we were saying the detriment of life and death is depending on the 7 having balance. You know, scales of the snake becoming now the serpent. All right, so and you hear it right here from scorpion on the ground to serpent that can fly, because it's an eagle as well with wings. See what I'm saying? So as noted earlier, the characteristics are how we saw things, describe things, and put it into the memory. So it was always there, no matter what we looked at. No one could tell us different. We saw it this way until we saw it from someone else. Then we could see it with both of those ways, not just one way of seeing it. You see what I'm saying? As noted earlier, when the point happens, power happens. And then and only can things get done. The goal, the objective, the purpose, the intent, the will is achieved, and a new cycle, a level, act wave can be reached. Oct wave and the pyramid is 7. And the pyramid of that pyramid points to 8, the oct wave. Next level. See the X in numeral 8. That's true, because you put the line. No, you put a V. Okay. The X is half of the section of the 8, having no curves on it. But when you say 10, 10 is the X. But going back before it, you have 9, which is a line before the X. And before that is a V with 3 lines. So it's definitely giving you what was coming up as the setup in pieces, but only putting those pieces together in a form. You know what I mean? Like your three lines were masculine, but your 2 feminines were inverted as a diagonal. So you're seeing the feminine and the masculine, or the masculine and the feminine having to have a bond, just that you had to use that through your own imagination. So that's pretty deep on how numerology it is not only explained in a different language, it's explained through different religions that took on the numbers and made their own numeric system, which became a numeral system. The pyramid, the 7, is pointing up. The inverse pyramid above it, the tip to the tip. These 2 pyramids make the eight. One represents earth, the other heaven. For number eight symbolize the union of spiritual and material planes, or heaven and earth, which is up here. So when me and a brother of mine, we were drawing out the ones, the twos, the threes, the fours, we went all the way up to nine. And every time we did those numbers and we put a reversal number on top of it, it expressed the eight. I said, dang. So we were like, one, anything after it still expresses eight. So we were into this notion that the octave begins as it's in steps, right? As we hear a step pyramid. The symbol for numeral eight is the infinity sign, which turns vertically. The infinity sign used to mean sexual union or two becoming one. Hence, it stood for perfection. It was a symbol of male or masculine and feminine conjunction. Its twin circles representing sun and moon cycles. Thus, we find the intersex of ions of life polarities in numeral eight. There's more also. I mean, there's mo, also always more. Eight, EIG, with HT is a form of the word AK. The point capstone, the ACHE, the AC, name of the eighth alphabet is H, is also a form of the word AK or Ka. Now you further understand why 8 also signifies regeneration. It is the connected, would they put an 8 in between it, or come acted, connected with the pyramid of regeneration. Remember, power exudes from the point apex of the pyramid itself, a point, hence baptismal fonts are octagonal in shape, symbolizing the initiatory power of regeneration. The form that the octagon, often used in the domes of temples, cathedrals, is along the beginning of the squaring of the circle. Hence, union of the powers of heaven and earth. In Kemet cosmology, 8 was associated with the 8 great deities. The celestial North Pole was figured as the summit of a very lofty mount called the Garden of Aru, the source of the name concept Jerusalem, which a paradise of the 8 great deities. These deities were the 7 Ali, which they said El's deities symbolized by the 7 North Pole constellations, plus the pole star deity. Aru, the super high mythical mountain of the north, was diamond pointed at the apex with the polar star. And the reason why I brought up the 8 because I'm an 8th day child, and even Noble Drew Ali, the 8th day child, we learn about that 8 a lot, whether it be a time capsule or what I just said earlier as an expression of time. Pardon, so. All right, so 7 inside and 5 outside. Number 7 is apparently the point inside. This is the heart, the depth, representing the internal, invisible, spiritual, divine center. Your static stillness. And number 5 is the point of outside, the head, the height, the representing of the external, the visible or manifested, the flesh, the center. The head is the fifth of the major projections of the human body. The cross is a macro and micro, or um, I apologize. The cross is the macrocosm and the microcosm. The X for time is June 22nd, 1992. This the ironic thing about this 22nd number is the 4 apex, so it shows a lot of switching game changed up. A bizarre cosmic cross may be the imprint of a giant black hole. Astronomers have long suspected that the Whirlpool galaxy 20 million light years away, harbors in its core a black hole, a super dense knot of matter whose gravity is so powerful that even light can't escape. Now, now a photograph taken by the Hubble Space Telescope has convinced them. The picture released last week reveals a giant X in the galaxy center. The scientists that think one arm of the X is as massive as a donut shaped cloud of dust swirling around the hole. The donut is seen edge on home. The donut is seen edge on hiding the uh, black hole from the view, but two coin shaped, cone shaped beams of light emitted by hot gas closer in can be seen escaping out the sides as the second arm. No one knows what it is. And there's the picture right here. Picture right there that is showing. And then they're actually saying that the X chromosome of human DNA is the feminine, which one of the arms is missing. It is masculine, or a Y chromosome. And X that didn't make it, they'll say that becomes a Y. And that's how you know what I'm saying, as far as the body parts, 23 is the 46 embryos, and the rhesus monkey was created through 42 to the 46 embryos. So some of us have been off balance, given off balance to the other, and we created a offset scale, whether we had deficient arms, deficient legs, deficient eye, deficient pigmentation. It was due to the fact that our improper learning and improper training towards each other, because we were never intimate as we were to think. Some of us have not touched intimacy, never heard about climaxation. So when it came down to having intercourse, you look at Boys in the Hood, and that's where you see a lot of boys are still in the hood mentality, whether they talk to the woman in that concept or whether they do the treatment, quote unquote, because dogs you give treatments towards in that same aspect. So the breeding concept was the degrading concept. And you can see it through, we were never, hood represents the phallus. So it's another indication that if this woman is so masculine, there is no feminine. And so how do we find how to show there's feminine amongst both of us and there's masculine in both um, amongst both of us? We have to have divinity. That's the only way all of this really gonna coexist for each other. We got to find where's the divinity side. And so I'm gonna give you this
Nehru,
last part. Yes, sir.
Nehru. Before we get too far away, we got one more question. We got questions flying in. Empress Star said, "So does it make it defective with the Y chromosome?"
Does it make it defective? Well,
Yeah, with the Y chromosome.
that's what I was just explaining. It's just like saying we know the story about Asar. Asar was uh, put out into 14 pieces and he was cut down to be 13. When they gave us that story, they was talking about religion. They was talking about how that religion created man not to ever know woman. And so 14 pieces is really saying 7th-generation man, 7th-generation woman. We create this 5. That's the X plus the Y. The X plus the Y. Now, we notice that man could be just Y by himself if he don't know his X. So this is why it can be a deficient in the physical form. If you don't know his spiritual and his mental, his physical definitely going to go down. So that's why it's important to know about the capstone. It's important to know even the saying the word why I got to do that, it's masculine. So if this masculine is in the chromosome of being masculine, he can't see his feminine, then this is where the deficient starts at.
No doubt, no doubt, no question.
Yeah, it's just, we got to go by chronological value. If you never honored your mother and you never honored your father, your days cannot be longer or stronger. And that's where all that basically was talking about. Your mother is your nurture. Your father is your time. So did you put time into how you got here? Did you put time into why you're here, what you're here from, who are you here from, and then where is it that you're from? Because it's a lot on the basic, as we just did. We just thoroughly went from 0 to 1. I'm not even going to go into this book, but I know my next concept will be going into this book, because this will give you more of an insight of how many people kind of basically scrabble a calendar and had us basically sit into that realm to think that this is how time got started. Once I finish this page, it'll clear a lot of things up that even for myself, to people like what we're doing right now, we're confused on a lot of levels, but it was only because mankind came in the middle of man and woman and created male and female. Phi is a form of a periodic table. Phi is a iron. So when someone said that's a female, they was describing not even a man. That's a phi with male. You see what I'm saying? So etymology, learning the ebonics, the sound, and how is it shaping in our head what is logical, creative, and what is fixed. So we got to see it from 3 points of view. It's never a duel. We got to see it past the duel. We can't fight each other, but there is a fight in each other that we might not be aware of. So now finding a neutral zone and finding this highest peak within that will start the parallel world to create the better world for us in that fire, earth, air, and rain fear. Because this LOVE also love. But because someone said it's evolve, they made it evolve. But we don't evolve. We elevate. We elevate ourselves. So we build up. What you about to say, brother?
My fault, my part and self. My apologies, because we have multiple people listening to you. You know what I mean? I got people listening in the background, so sometimes the comments, as far as they keying in on things you're saying. So
Okay.
we got more comments from Empress Star. She says, "So honor your mother and father is basically saying to honor your masculine and feminine within you."
Absolute. Absolute.
Mm.
Because right now, after I read this, I'm gonna tell you, how, because yeah, we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna get this part out right quick. To wear the royal crown. Okay, so Kemet has a royal crown. It's the points that distinguish itself, right? And I'm quite sure you done seen it where it's Tutmos, and we know it as Moses, or we know it as Musa. We know it as um, the one who has the horns on their head. And they've changed that depiction from what some of us would have saw was Pan. They use Pan in this aspect. They use Moses in this aspect, but that's coming from the Greek terminology. It's not coming from our terminology, but they had to still give us something. So they created their own stuff in the stuff that we have. And that's where you get this here. Tutmos, or we know it as King Tut. And you'll see it as the Star of David on most people and not know it. So the 6-pointed star, they'll call it the Star of David, or the David, the David, right? To wearing the royal crown was a point to come to a point. By the point itself, the pharaoh and the queen together used the ak, or foremost point of the nation. The center point around with the kingdom and queendom resolved. Points 7 is the ak around, which 6 circles circulate. That is exactly 6 circles go around the 7th circle in the center. See, the hexagram distinguishedly built in the, they call it the Hemhemet crown, in the lower part and upper part. As the center is the point called the nose or pyramid in the center of the face. Pharaoh and queens were regarded to incarnate deities, sun goddesses, Ra Et, sun god Ra, the sun around whom the planets revolved like 6 around 7. This is what that conversation back there comes back to again. But it's black. 7 is the black, the axe, the black source point. Ra radiating the light of 7 rays. Ra gives Ra's or rays, which is the Y as I with SE. The lines in the headdress are the rays of the sun coming out of the head. For the sun, head are 1. That's where you get 6-pointed star with the sun, and that's 7. Okay. So for the sun and the head are 1. The head's hair, like we know from Musa, we heard Medusa, the Medusa, right? The medium, the middle. So medial. The hair represents the rays. Well, the head's hair itself is a version of sun rays or radiation. So I'm going to show you the picture here. And it's showing you the circles and how the circles, if they were to be diagonal, they'll look like that. And then when they're looking like that, put in circles with the round that you can end up seeing. There's the 6 points, right? 6 points for 6 circles. And that's how this end up no longer looking like that one. And so you got sunflowers, things of that nature where you say, oh, I see the roundness in it, is now the imagination that the pedestals are round versus vertical or horizontal, with the diagonal of a triangle. So this would change the shapes. Our values start to see lesser if our shapes also became that. So now, since Kemet is L and R are 1, so when I say that, the left and the right are 1. Today's society separated it. So you got L separated from La, but you hear the word Ella like you hear the word Allah. Come on, don't play with me. So when you have words that give you a combination of feminine and masculine, you're like, oh, I feel good about it. I don't know why I felt good when I said that. Even the word s and is connected. You hear shh, and you're like, oh, that sounds good. But what are you getting ready to say? You're saying feminine and masculine combination before you even said the word. That's why when you say shut up, it has value to it, but it's the value that can be offset. So now you got to see how and what you're saying or how you said it is what you meant to say it and how you said it. You know what I mean? Like, shut up. And you saying it like somebody might say something that was funny. Say, shut up, man. You tripping. You'll say it differently to where you're not hurting that person's feelings, but it could lead to hurting that person's feelings. So you got to be mindful how we're using these letterings, right? Because I'm saying the R is also like a L. Now, when I say hair, I'm saying HAIR, hair. But I'm also can say hair is also like saying hell, HAIL or HELL. So when we hear Helios, like the name of the sun, Sam's sun, the sun has 7, as we know, locks representing the colors of the sunlight, the spectrum. The lines of Hemet crown are vertical at the top, horizontal at the sides. Now designated the vertical and horizontal principles, which intercourse to the form of a cross, which forms the point, which is the portal for the point, the power, which apparently each type of Kemet royal headdress, the crown was formed the Babe L. And we know the Babe L, see how this is formulated? They got them going left to right. This one's going diagonal up and down. And the same here at the bottom. So the same as they did here, they did the crossings where it's thicker or thinner, but they also made, triangles or squares to it. So this is why your house is also made in that same format with those bricks that's on it, and the tiles that's on it. So they made vertical and horizontal, and then it came to the crisscross right here and created the points. So now how they can work in and in invertedly and out external. So now you got external and internal energy. When we draw a circle around, drawing a circle around this 6-pointed star is basically keeping that energy in that bound. So the same if it's not on it, it's boundless. So now we created certain type of uh, uh, mandalas to put on our bodies, which were symbols that became sigils that also help in certain type, let's say, significant areas. Because I can go to an area and because we're a walking, moving grid, and if we don't have any grids to how we agreed with things, we're also in a grid to a grid with whatever's going on in that room. So this is why most people carry unks, walked into another realm and it was like, I'm in the significance of, I know what death is, so I'm into life. You know what I mean? So we'll value it more versus value death like. And, so the cross being into X can be talking about death. And they saying, well, I'm into death and I'm going to talk about more death than I am going to talk about life. That's why you got Ampu as the dog. But now what's significant about the dog is Ampu has to take care of the stuff in the underworld, which is like he basically pushing out your negative thoughts. And he's also, because he's of the underworld, he has to humble himself. So he can't be just a dog. That's why what she said makes sense. We become a deficient man who dog the God out of ourselves. We don't need to dog the God out of ourselves. We have to create the dog to become a canine, not a conniving, a canine, like how we say ack. Ack is cop. So if you have a creative birth born energy, you're going to take care of your children like it was a cub, in the club. There's the L, that's the 7 upside down. So when people in the club, they shouldn't be thinking I'm gonna smash or I'm gonna hit this woman by getting her digits or whatever you're thinking. It should be more of a cuddle, not cud thing. It's an animal thing. It's back to the male. So think of male like X male being male like being sabotaged by being what they call it, male, black male. We don't need to think that way. We have to come out of the blackmailing format. So that blackmailing format was based on earth, material. Look at matter and material differently. Look at how mature you are with matter. Now you won't have to think just survival skills. You'll think with more humble skills, more humility skills, more of I'm gonna honor the earth, because fire can't just sit in the air. Fire has to do what? Fire has to come down. It can't just stay up in the air. If it's up in the air, what keeps it up? It will have to be some kind of gas. But even gas is weighted by water. So gas, it depends on how much hydration or dehydration is going to come down. So it has to have balance. It has to have air balance. So if it's on earth and it's scorching the earth, it's not balanced. And you could imagine how many people eat hot foods, fire foods. And this is why this would be important to get in tune with this, and also get in tune with the Taoism. There's Taoic foods that you can eat that is going to base your fire foods, your water foods, your earth being foods, which when we talking about earth foods, we're talking about wood, and we're talking about metal foods. Some of it's wood, some of it's metal. And what I mean is that as metal can be as like how we think of iron, and wood is more like, think of it being more of a um, bitter but sweet kind of thing going on. You have sweet, you have hot. I mean, you got hot, you got cold, and you got sweet, and you got sour. Out of those fours, you're gonna it's been broken down and how you're gonna eat it, whether it's thick or it's gonna be thin, condensed or not so condensed. That's where your six elements start to play itself, not just being four parts, but six being the interaction. You want it, you don't want it. That's why physical five, we can love ourselves all day. But if you're just physical, that doesn't mean anything. Like if you just love your child, but don't know how to love your child, that's just physical. You have to know your spiritual self. Whenever your child get around you, your child should be feeling like, man, I can't get enough of you. That's what that's supposed to be like. But if your child's away from you, or you saying, I gotta get away from my child, that's not the spiritual side. That's just a physical. And because us as men, we can create that form in us, like the lion who started getting rid of the cubs that wasn't his. He was thinking more or less, if this child ain't mine, I don't need this cub in my cave. But this is why we hear about David in the lion's den. They had to give us a human form in there with the lion so that he won't be, he knows the lion. He don't have to become the lion, but he knows how to lie down with the lion. He has to know how to align with the lion. He has to know how to kneel. Kneel and align, that's the same words. This is why that book that I showed you from Cesar, I love her for the fact that she break it down the way I speak. So it's like I'm talking to one of my families who, and not to disarm any of my family, just that they never grasp me like that. They never grasp me like how she speaks. I've had even my blood mother say, well, why you write like that? And I'm like, Puh, I'm glad you asked me that. I write like that so we can have our language. Our language was the first language before anybody's language. I say that proudly. Hey, what you doing? We speak on that kind of language. You spoke on sound. Yo, what's up? And I'm not saying I'm proud of those two. It might have been that was proud of first before I heard any of those sounds. Because it came with some other stuff. Like, hey, go give me this. Or yo, let me get some money. Oh man, damn, I don't want to talk to y'all. But then it was refreshing. Or I know that means don't touch that because the next thing you're gonna get hit. Certain things help you realize it came with a sound and a tone. So when we started not doing the right tone or the right sound with each other, that's where the distortment started at. Babel, you a baby or you're a L. And at Babel talk, Babylonia, when I get to the next conversation, we're going to talk about that. How did that originate to be so strong that where we're still utilizing it now and we don't know the difference? There's a lion in the baby. And that lion and the baby they call the beast. Yet it was about the beauty. And we made the beauty as if it was a beast. And so a lot of us distorted the beauty out of each other. We distorted it so much that we'll look at people's imperfection when it's the perfection of themselves that makes them perfect.
Henceforth, the Beauty and the Beast movie, eh?
Absolute, brother, and it's coming out again. Yes, I am. They're not playing, bro. Back to the Future also. They're gonna go into detail now. They figure if you didn't catch it, I'm gonna go in full detail. Let's look at Roots. You seen Roots?
Yeah, I mean, I not really for a minute. You know what I mean? They ain't one of them. I was more when I came up. I was more in the Shaka Zulu. Eh?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the reason why I brought up Roots, because Roots had a non-Africanism in it, and you had to catch that because they're giving you American history in there. So it's still his story, but he's coming from at least America, and that's now you're starting to grasp why they even had somebody ship a ship over there grabbing people and bringing them to America. When you see Roots, the first section, you'll think that they were coming to Africa, coming to America when it was in reverse. And you could see that in the second one. They put a series, and I'm glad they did that because they couldn't just, when they made that movie and they threw it in our face, they couldn't just run over us that fast in that vast to make it that's the mass. Nah, that stuff is not adding up. So to come back at it again and then make it a series and then show you the light skin, the dark skin, the royalty to the rags that looked like they were supposed to be riches back then. Because when you go back to the first Roots, they all look like they were ragged up before they snatched these people up. I was like, dang, these people was never rich. So what? They were poor Africans, and then they come over here, and now they poorer African Americans. No, this is not making any sense. So that part will distort someone if they're watching that. I like Shaka Zulu because it was giving you the ranking of bloodline. Now, the part that made sense is certain people will black sheep you. That's why that Shaka Zulu is a strong impact that we got the Black Panthers using that same movie construct when they come up with Killmonger. When Killmonger's put in there, he using that same spirit, breaking it down, showing how you using a long device, we can use a short one, and we're going to do it more militant, more, how Shaka was about. And that's showing the masculine side. So it did show that. I would say the only downfall about, putting those two movies or having them in that conjunction is that you didn't get to see the downfall of man having to be converted to mankind. And so let's say Roots, they snatched the man up, but he looked like he was just in fear. At least when you go to the new one, they had a issue with each other. It was more like a rivalry of one set of Africans to another set of Africans. And this is how you see it originated. That's why the first Roots did not make any sense. You got someone who's an Irish descendant running around grabbing people up like he can do that. And it's like, how did he even get over there? And how do you know where to go to grab these people up at? They ain't gonna hurt him. You know what I'm saying? And then they also depicted a lot of the Moorish science in that. So if you look at both of them, you know what I'm talking about. Because when we study on the Moorish science, we find out a lot of Masons took the Moorish science only to change it and make it for themselves. So it's just about the podcast and that reality and how people check it differently. You gotta see it different in order for it not to be the same. You know what I mean? And because they did put Roots out back in the day, and it was supposed to be like a 70s, 80s type thing, they really fast forward a lot to try to sum it up and then push it in front of us and say, y'all gotta accept it the way it is. And it's not. The major thing about Roots is that Eartha Kitt, she's in there and she's telling the story that y'all not Africans. You're not born in Africa. Just like Trinidadians aren't, African because they were born in Trinidad. It's where they were born at that makes them who they are. So to take away the A's, Africa, Asia, America, all these A's, and then Europe, it's a Europe-Asian. It's a Europe invasion. It's the A was on the Europe. We just never seen it as Europa and things of that nature. So it does depict on your location. If you come in one location and say you from that location, it can make you dislocated. So that's very important. And I can see where you're coming from as far as not wanting to see it. However, if my child is watching it, I got to go into it. I'm going to say, hey, wait, this Roots came out first. Let me look at this one. Now I'm going to see what's the comparison. From this Roots to this Roots, I can tell you because I was there. You know what I mean? And so that was like the major thing I was really seeing. If because if you got time, man, we could look at any old movie, like I was just saying with Back to the Future. Go on back there and look at it real quick before you look at the new one, and you'll know exactly what they took out.
Well, this is your show, man. So, you know what I mean? Go ahead and rock out, G. You know what I'm saying? I mean, ain't no rush. Go ahead and rock out. You know what I mean? You got viewers and all that, questions coming through. So, you know what I mean? Just rock out, G. I'm just
Yeah.
sharing it all
If you got
around.
any questions, let me know. I definitely want to see expound on what I just threw out there.
So what? Well, I got one simple one. What sparked these variations of topics or downloads or uploads, etc. for the night or for this presentation?
Well, I feel that because where we're at, like I said, with the cosmic and the 13 moon cycle, and not knowing that we're going to go back into the first one beginning cycle all over again, it had me to look back at time and where I'm at also in this time. Like, time is relevant to a lot of things that's happening right now. And if we're not seeing it, some of us are actually feeling, depleted or feeling like, oh man, I don't have what I'm doing right and I'm inaccurate. But it really breaks down. It's another way of looking at your astrology. This is the Vedic astrology. In a Vedic astrology, they actually give you what they call it, jyots. Let me see. Let me make sure I say the word right. It's an old term that they gave it, but I didn't realize there was other ways of looking at astrology. You got to see it from different aspects, not just one way. Because when I got into marriage, my divorce was because I didn't know her zodiac sign fully, and then um, 20 years later, I'm still like fully thinking I'm good now. I know all about the zodiac. I run into another woman who I had to learn her, and that was the Western. I had to learn the Eastern side of the astrology. And then I was like, wow, I was blown away because the zodiac in itself, the sign, is only describing 1 month. However, you got 12 more months to learn, or 11 more months to learn of someone. So when I found the Eastern astrology, it was a whole year that you learning of someone. So I was like, oh, why did I have this? So now I got this one. It's called the Geo, is Jyotish. So Geotish, the Geotish astrology, which is written right there. I didn't even realize it was written right there, but yeah, Jyotish, which is the Vedic astrology, is an excellent introduction in text covering all the basics of the centuries old predictive art. The material is well organized, highly readable, and easily accessible to anyone with a sincere interest. And it explains the person with a beautiful job of bringing it into the idea of what's been hidden, the material to life for Westerners. A lot of the things we do is basically on a Western level, right? So, as a practitioner of both Hindu and Western astrology, the author guides newcomers away from the pitfalls and calamities that have been destroying Westerners' hope in learning Eastern astrology century after century. Now they're talking about Eastern. If you got Eastern being destructive, it's only because you didn't know Western. Well, then there's something missing, right? So until recently, the old textbooks on the astrology of India available to Western students were clearly designed for use in a traditional Indian cultural setting. Powerful as the techniques taught in these texts may be, they were not always appropriate for use in Western cultural settings. Now, several texts had been written by Western students who had to study in India. Among the best of these is this text by this person. All right, so astrology is a major bridge between the astrological heritage of India and the cultural needs of the West. Her work enables any thoughtful reader with a basic knowledge of Western astrology to encounter the Indian tradition, the power of its methods, and the richness of its thought. And while no one text can completely encompass the elaborate astrological tradition of India, this text gives the student a solid foundation in these traditions and make it possible to go on to the study of life, original astrological classics of India, as such as these texts is one of the best and perhaps the best text of its kind in print. Now, being that I said that, I had grabbed this without the notion that I was going to still make pivotal movements And it was happening because I was reading this book, but then there was another one I got. It's called Black Mama, uh, which we know black is not a word; it's just a term, and it expressed the feminine attributes. And because I had high blood pressure at 16, I felt getting into these books was my next thing. Getting married and having a divorce, you realize the divorce is not because you are divorcing that person. Divorce is you having a divorce with yourself. And I had to agree with what I was disagreeing with, the tough and the rough realities that I was checking myself with. And now I'm where I'm at. You know what I mean? Like the issues of diseases helped me realize how at ease I was, and now how disciplined or disciple level I'm here to be, helping out what I know to the ones who want it. I felt though recent that you can get into a stigma where you want to get to the best of where everybody's at, but even at the best of where everybody's at, they're not. And some of us would just uh want to continue doing whatever that is and not have another person pop up like that. So certain issues in our lives, some truth is not valuable like we would want to see it. So once you give out truth though, you know, walk away from it. The truth was already set up. It's gonna happen the way it's intended to happen. If you procrastinate it or slow it down, it's only you being in the way of it. So that's what I found out. Wave in the ocean, become more of an ocean connector, not a wave pusher. You can push a wave, but if that wave come back pushing at you, whew, there's more waves than one. And I give thanks to that. So even for you, brother, you came out there and was like, you ever got on a podcast and you brought me in with the other brother, and once I
Hmm.
started to see that was needed and
Hmm.
necessary, I know that our people need that now more than ever. And it's been a great walk too. Like I know it's been over at least seven years of that.
Well, guess what though? I mean, I really need you to have Trey and y'all. We get some more guests come through, man, on your show. So you know, what I mean, we could do maybe a weekly show or bi-weekly show, so we can go in and start getting everything situated and let them know really what's going on. Let's do a small commercial break. Do you offer any services? Where can they locate you at? Can they get any sessions? Do they book consultations? You got a website? What's going on?
Well, as I said, I jumped right out of the helicopter and jumped right on the land, and I'm like running as fast as I can as the gingerbread man. So if anything, 757-977-7791 is my contact. I am on IG. That's EETURNAL. I'm also on Facebook. That's ETURNAL. And then it's L Bay, EL, and then it's BEY. I'm also on YouTube. That's also ETURNAL, and that's L Bay, ELBEY. I also have TikTok. I'm also up there as Buddha E, BUDD, either it's HA or AH, and then put EEE or Eternal, ETURNAL, and that should pop up. My services are motivation. I'm a motivation speaker. I speak with that as whether it's your sound and your rhythm, how you want to dance. I help with that as well. Get some ability out of your feet. So I am a Pisces by the sun. I am a Aquarius / Capricorn by moon. So I deal with also the tough teacher. So I'll give you 2 calls, but that third call, we're done. 3 strikes, you're out. However, I'm mindful. Just be mindful of people's time. That's all. So if you give me a link, if you're here in Norfolk or if you're here any of the 757, I can do my best to get to you. I'm more of a bike rider. I've been on a bike rider since 2008, and I feel that that's more needed and necessary to keep my balance to where I'm at. and I do travel at least past 10 miles. So if you are a 10-mile person away, I will travel to you. However, don't expect me to do that every week. So time is value. We exchange. I give exchanges. So I'll just only expect the same. You can always hit me up on Cash App. For my seed is $ KEETAY with an extra Y, and that's my son. And then it's a $PRECIOUS Precious KM, which that's my daughter. So for my son and my daughter, my son is 23. My daughter's about to turn 3. This is her month right now. Not this month itself, but the next month coming. Which is this is her zodiac season. So you start to see how the lion gate, how that's definitely helpful. So if you need any ideas of motivation, I'm dealing with um, the astrology side, the anatomy side. Um, I deal with the card reading as well. I don't go really deep detail into it because I know some of it's coming out the golden, the Aleister Crowley society. So I keep my minds on the general aspect, still keep it feminine along with the masculine so that we can get that. My whole idea is to give our language back. The mother gave us our language. Secondary language came from a man. So to give you now the notion, that's what I'm here for. So if you need a massage, whether it's on a table or on a chair, I got you. If you just need Reiki healing with sounds, I got that as well. My service is usually buck to $1.50, depends on how long you want me. I usually do an hour and a half, an hour at minimum. If you want to do like the chair, I can do 30 minutes. And then there's events. I do events. I'm having a music, the reggae. Well, it's a music fest in Portsmouth coming up on the 26th, this Saturday or the 25th, one of those numbers. But it'll be in Portsmouth, Airline Boulevard. Come check it out. We'll be out there till about probably 11 o'clock. But I specialize in copper. So if you need any copper pieces made up, I deal with crystals. I like to wrap them, and we can get it sent to you. We also help with motivational food. So what kind of foods? I just look at to your chart and see if you might need some help with your cellulose salt or detoxing. What areas to go through to help with some type of detox to get you right. Other
Let
than
me.
that,
Are we able to see a couple of the pieces, or a few of the pieces? You got a few on hand, just like a little, just quick pieces, nothing, so that way, and then kind of, explain the kind of the motivation behind it and different things of that nature. Also, do you do speaking engagements? Like, I don't know if it like traditional, like on the stage at a podium type of thing, but like any type of speaking events, maybe at schools or any type
yes,
of thing. And as far as travel,
yeah.
if someone wanted to bring you out of town, like let's say they said, they wanted to book you at another state or something. Uh, do you have that type of capability? If they had the budget to get you over there?
Well, in the meantime, anywhere in state, I got you. I'm more of a bus person. I don't like to travel by plane or train. I do train. And yeah, I would infinitely love to time travel. I love that. That helps me out too as well. I'm more of a vegan eater or plant based, so I don't really do with the processed vegan. I do it with more of the plant based. So, and then if that's needed and necessary, show you a couple of my dishes that I've even created myself through this lifeline. So I don't mind coming over. We come over for the weekend and bust it in and show you how this lifestyle and life can work. Yes, I work with pre-K all the way up to 5th grade, and I go past that as well. But I was a teacher assistant for 20 years, so it definitely helped to learn. Well, 14 years. It helped to learn how to associate ourselves with the children. So yes, any hands-on connection you want with the children, I do like a birthday function. If your child's having a birthday, I can come over there and play some sounds for them. You know, get them more in tune with the music and what we call the griot part, the jegna, the actual side to where we bring the folklore, the idea of even in shamanism, if you need some sit down spiritual guide with some sage and somebody just sit there while you know, go through your transition of phase, how do you meditate? You know, so breathing is important for us. So confirmation of my own. How do you use your breath and what do you use it for? How do you utilize that? So I deal with instruments. I'm also a musician. So whether it be art, visual art, uh, culinary art, we could break it down to how you want to do it. I'm not expensive. It's just that our life is expensive. So if we can expand it, we will see how this life has expansion. It's an abundance, yes, yet it deals amongst us. So if you have any places that you have, any centers, gather the people. I don't mind dropping a couple of hours in. We could break a couple hours after Q&A after that and let them get that enlightenment. I'm also a visual artist, so I do have art around. I just haven't. It's in different locations. This I did the eye glasses. So for our eyeglasses, put the no sin, no evil, the evil, no evil, eyes on it. Put this in some so you can see what I'm talking about. So I put this, put the eyes on it. You know what I mean? So then I had a actual amethyst sitting in the center of it. You know, so I make sometimes I make glasses. Depends on what people want. I do the all seeing eye, like just was knowing about the eye. I take personals, customize pieces, and make them more to their level. If they say that they want something different, you know, I'll either say that I could do it or get them to the experts that, you know, beyond me, because I know it's very important to see the outlook the way you're wanting it, you know, and that does make it a hard strategic pattern to replicate. Not everybody's going to be good at, you know, something somebody want to see out of that dimension. This is amethyst. So I'll do like what they call the simple wrap to then a strategic wrap. So I would say this is more of a strategic wrap with a simple wrap, having just a cage on it and then, you know, some form of wrapping in the center of it. It's usually my goal, or I'll, you know, this is Amazonite, good for communication, healing purposes. Amethyst was what I showed earlier was for you know, any type of defects going on, whether you want strength to power yourself, the seventh chakra, and the Amazonite is good for your throat. There's levels to colors and how the colors are going to help, you know, with you and what you're doing. This one is an agate, helps with memory, also helps with communication. And as you see, when it comes down to symbols, also going to create it itself within the crystals, and that's how you know there's more going on within it than just, you know, it's a fashion. It's really giving you the spiritual element that's behind it. This is selenite, so I created a selenite.
Real quick, real quick, real quick. The last piece. How much would you sell a few of these pieces for? That the last piece you just shown. Like the
You
yeah,
say
yes.
this goes from 25, 30 on rope, 35, 40 on chain. Then I create unks as well. The origin of Eternal came out when I was drawing the anchor, and I didn't know that was, you know, the Popeye thought, or the anchor being the unk, the uncle. So I started with that. This is a clear quartz, so I might put a clear quartz, or I might even put a root to the unk, but it would have to be closer to your root if you're going to wear it. So that's what my thought was, to keep people in their placement. If like this one, petrified wood, It's a good grounder, good for meditation. You want this more near your root. So that's what I would do. I would, at least get the pieces started. So that way, if you came to me, I say at least I got certain pieces already set up. Sometimes it would take me to know your birthstone, but it's up to 6 birthstones. So it's not one birthstone that you're connected to. You're up to 6, and then is what day you was. That's a vibratorial stone that also works. The last one I showed you was red jasper. This one's for healing, also groundwork, meditation as well, and it reduces negative energy. This one is, they call it rubellite. Rubellite is ruby, or they call it pink tourmaline mixed. And so rubellite will help with anxiety. Also helps with ability, stability. So being able to ground oneself as well, and as well as what we wouldn't think of, finance. Finance is what we do think about a lot. We just got to figure out how to get it in different ways, and it's not finance just physical; it's also spiritual. So looking at what helps you is grounding more, eating better foods than just the ones that are fried, eating more of a water base so that you can get that reflection. We call it current and
What
currency. This is
part part and stuff? While we still on the copper, continue with the pieces. Why is it important for copper tone, indigenous, black, melanated, whomever, wherever they are, people to incorporate copper within all of their forms of life or etc. As far as foods, as far as like you're saying, your pieces and different things of that nature. Why is it vitally important?
it helps with the idea of, like, most people say I'm diabetic. Well, we say I'm diabetic because we're deficient of something. So whether it be sugar or salt, we didn't realize we needed more sugar or needed more salt intake in our diets. And what I mean by sugar and salt is not the unnatural salt, and it's not the unnatural sugar. It's the natural forms of salt. It's the natural forms of sugar. And out of those natural forms, you'll find sugar also in fruits. You find salt also in fruits, or you find salt also in vegetables. I'm not saying fruit got, sugar is in vegetables, but you definitely find the salt in the vegetables. So we're looking at these two are the balances of why people were eating it. Now, to look at why copper is that connection, because when we were talking about female, we were talking about iron male. We want a iron to be not deficient for you. So the iron we're talking about is amino protein. Amino protein is created through a lot of silica, and the silica is manganese, magnesium, zinc, iron. Those things are based in copper. So this will be for your outside. Copper foods will be for your inside. If I was to wear this and I'm going outside and it's hot, like 90 degrees, and my skin, wherever this was put on, starts to go green, is actually letting me know I need to go ahead and get some oxidational foods, oxidational water, versus just a drink that's with Gatorade or something like that. The idea of those drinks, with, let's say they had electrolytes in it, is it the proper electrolytes? You need electrolytes that's based on the sun, not based on chemical. So this is one reason why the element is going to help you indicate whether you hypertone, hypersensitive, basically, and hypersensitive basically is dealing with your up and downs, your hydration to dehydration. So we're talking about from gout to arthritis to carpal tunnel to high blood pressure to having heart attacks and even asthma, breath, circulation, all this dealing with that. So this is the conductor, the conduit. They call this the child. The copper is the child to the gold, that's the father, and the silver, that's the mother. This one will help because it's the industrial part to the residential. They had residential wiring in the wall. And when we did have that, it was short circuiting. But if you have an industrial prong, it was dealing with the third prong being copper, which helped ground it. When you was in trouble and you was doing a lot of stuff going on in your household, they grounded you. That was important. Grounding is important. Not the grounding that they were doing, but the idea of grounding. Grounding in the meditational state. So this will help with meditation. This is what they call flaming stone. Helps with your sensitivity and helps with your intuition. So having these around will be more intuitive for you. That's another reason. Like to say you're in a grid, but do you agree with what's going on? If you don't agree with what's going on, you put all you could put on your own yoke, your baptismal energy. However, you need more pieces than that. So you might need this on you just to walk in that room and come back out with safety. This will take it before you have to take it. That's what's so important. It's like putting on your clothing or putting on your cloak, when you're going to church. How do you put the armor or the armory together? That's what signifies the wardrobe. They call it a wardrobe. Why would you want to be at war with the drobe? You know what I mean? But certain things you're going to war for, and we might not be wearing it. So wearing it and wearing it is basic relativity. I'm not saying I got to be in a wardrobe. I could have an attire. So now this is how you create an attirement on yourself, because I'm not at war with anybody. If I'm at war with anybody, I'm going to be at war with myself first. So now it's just getting things that keep us feeling and knowing you're in a humble state. Like Moses on the ground, when he put his feet on the ground and took his shoes off, he was saying he was on holy ground. That was the reason for it. The earth is connected by minerals. So you got marble in your countertop. That's the reason why you cut on the marble versus just cutting on that wood chopping thing block. You could cut on the wood, but it's still another, as they call it, an element. So this is why we're in tune with it better than to not utilize it. The lesser you're using it, the quicker your body can deteriorate. That's why people stay young longer than other people. And you're thinking it's some kind of magic. It's not. It's science. It's being conscious. It's being aware of how to become an elder versus become an older with a stick or a cane or a stroller because they're deteriorating on Earth. That's not how gravity works on us. But gravity can work on us like that. This is called selenite. Celestite. Celestite is an angelical piece. Is helpful for if you need to talk to the angels. You can't find a way of, some of your parents or someone passed early and you don't have a way of talking or communicating. This is one of those crystals you want to gravitate to. You can get a bigger one, or you can have, let's say, this piece and another piece. That one stays in your house. This one is carried on you. You take this off, you put this with that one, and it'll restore the energy. So when we look at how you can restore energy to each other as a crystal, they also help with that. That's what this is for, selenite. You put a selenite, let's say you put that selenite with the celestite, and you put these together, they're going to combinate each other. Certain ones are going to combinate, certain ones aren't. But this one gives all the other crystals energy and help. Sometimes we need help. So when we're around amongst each other, people are helpful. Some of us aren't, and you'll find out the difference. This is green aventurine, along with the red all-seeing eye. No evil eye. And the green aventurine is good for finance, friendship. So I thought I figured to put these two together, these combinations together, and create the orange agate. So memory, being in tune with it, and that way, whenever certain things in our principles pop up, these you can just have sitting around in the house, and that way your finance starts to increase. What times would I would do it? More than likely the full moon and the waxing moon. I wouldn't do it on the waning, and I wouldn't do it on the new moon. And the reason why is because you can't gain if you're decreasing. You're only losing. So I wouldn't wear this while the moon is going down. I'll wear this while the moon is getting up, so I can get an increase in what we're doing. So it is important to know about your stone. Don't just rock a stone and don't know what it is or how is it helpful, what's the beneficial behind it. That'll help you in the long run. This one is a snowflake obsidian.
Snowflake, real quick, pardon self. Obsidian.
Sure.
As far as classes or whatever you would call them, would someone be able to facilitate copper wire classes? Are you considering doing either those virtual or in person classes? Would you consider those type of sessions?
I'm more of a private person on that. So if you do want to do sessions, I'd rather you come to me. And if it is virtual, it would have been like, like how you setting it up now, to where they're somehow giving you, and it's more like a membership concept. Because what we're finding out now is more of how, yeah, Patreon and all of these are very helpful, because now you see how people get all information and they'll just take it and run with it. YouTube is great for, leaving your information out there. It's just, I would say that's a beginning state. That's not something you want to put all your information on. So yeah, I don't mind doing it. And it is, to a point where some people actually lose out because they gave out so much. And I'm not saying that I'm going to lose out. It's just I'd rather have a safe precaution, and that would come to, how did you get to get it? You know what I mean? So if you did whatever it took to get it, I'm willing. You know what I mean? Like that's why you saw a lot of lecturers stay for 3 hours when they said they were only there for two. You know what I mean? They said they were only going to be there for two. It was the third hour, but they really wanted to talk to the ones that was willing to hear it. You know what I mean? So it just got to be willing to do the work. If you willing to do the work, I'll work with you. My sessions aren't high at all. We'll talk, because it's just based on what you asking out of it. Like, do you need the copper, or do you need the crystals? If you got the crystals, it might be cheaper. If you got the copper, it might be cheaper. If you got the tools, it's cheaper. You know what I mean? So it's on relativity. Call me up. We'll definitely break it down. We'll break bread, because that's what it's about, breaking bread. And I don't want to be the one that's doing crystals all my life, because your hands will start to cramp up. That's why I hit the drum. So if you want to learn how to drum, I show that. That way, if you're a crystal maker, you probably want to do that so your hands won't cramp up. You see? So it's all in life and lifestyle. So I don't mind showing you these things. It's just that you had to be humble on how you're getting it from me. So whether you call my number or get up with DJ Rain, we'll definitely plug you in though.
The piece that you was
Okay.
saying.
Okay, so I got a human. I mean, a human. I got a healing quartz, a golden healing quartz. That's good for healing. Any of those who do a lot of healing, we need healing. But we'll say we need healing, but the ones who are healing, what they get, you know what I mean? So find your good healers. Make sure they get some good healing stones for them, crystals. Pink rose quartz is another good one. Center, love, affection, protection, major. Because the more protected we are, the better we are at not having to keep looking over our shoulder. And I'm not saying so you won't have to look over your shoulder. You still want to keep precaution. You just that sometimes you forget you put a precaution. So now that you got that precaution in case you forget, that's a good help versus just you didn't have any idea that you was gonna have a flat and you never bring a spare tire, that kind of thing. This right here is crocodile jasper. It's definitely good for high tense situations, stress, anxiety, and I also put a pyrite under there. So usually I do a unk, and I might put a little crystal here or under it. A lot of my centering connections is based on unks, but I do also bigger pieces. This is my pyrite again, but I'll customize a piece. And then, of course, that'll be my idea. This one will be something that someone had to buy for like 200 versus, something that could be for $20 or a couple of dollars. Which I realize also I do crystals, but I also do the wrapping by itself. Some people don't want just crystals and things like that, so they'll say, well, just give me a shape of a ring or something. And so I do rings as well. I do bracelets. These are cheaper as well, and I don't mind. You come by, we do hands-on. I can do a customized right there on the spot, 20 minutes. I just need to get it going, 20 to 30 minutes. But if it's harder than what I'm thinking, you just have to come back and get it. So if you want to set up a piece, we can do some setup. And I have it done by the next day if it's something like that where, you got to have it, or 2 days. Give me at least a 2 days notice so that I can work with it. So I did the tiger's eye. That's golden tiger's eye. That was good for healing negative energy, get rid of optimistic, so get finances. This was labradorite. Labradorite happens to be an iridescent color in it. This is good for strength, manifestation, power, how to see yourself, getting in tune with yourself. So we had to do certain things like this one that came out of this season. This was the Cancer season. This is the Moonstone, and that's good for the opposition of labradorite. This is the feminine, while labradorite is the masculine. This will help with full moon, new moon, and the waxing. The phases of the waning it's on you on maturity. So now, while it's waning, usually you put these in the earth, or put these in the moon phase, so they go through the full moon cycle. Once it go through a full moon cycle, you pick it back up, put it back on. It's supercharged. So yeah, I do a lot. Whether it's just there's a citrine. I like my whole idea is to do adjustable rings, so that way you can just put it on, and if it's not the right size, we can size it up for you. I like doing combinations, and I also like create my own style. It's a pyrite, and I put that on some copper itself. That way, so when you open it up, flexibility wise, you can put it on, and you can rock with it, having it on you. An actual rock on top of your hand. And of course, some of us say, well, I don't use thick ones. Well, here's a thinner one. That's a pyrite as well. And it still can sit, like I said, relativity wise. Put it right on you. There you go. What I notice is left to right. I've heard different speakings on it. My thought was left to right versus right to left. Put on your left side, your heart, and the right to circulate out. So if you have zinc or copper, or gold or pyrite, not pyrite, silver, any of those you can put on the right to extend the energy, giving out the energy. You want to ground yourself before it gets into you. That's why you put on your left. Also do armlet pieces. So if you got your arm, you want it on your arm. I got that too. You just want a basic, symbolic of it. Do something simple, or that can be on your arm. We can put crystals in it in the center of it. It just depends on how you want to go with the flowetry. Like I said, some people might not want a lot of crystal format, so they'll just say, well, just give me your actual design, and I'll make a design out of the actual copper, and I'll just start working with it, and then there you go, and with a bracelet. And some of these bracelets run as cheap as $10 or $15. Just depends on what you're looking at. If you got a crystal one, it might be 15. Like I said, it depends on the crystal too. This one happens to be yeah, that's the amethyst.
How
No, that's the
how
actually
often
smoky quartz.
how often should we clean our copper pieces, or a person clean their copper pieces, and what's the best method?
Well, as far as cleaning your copper pieces, that's much as you want, as much as you want to desire to clean it. Um, that's why I was explaining about the waning and the waxing moon. If you notice about it decreasing of any kind of feeling, make sure you're taking it off from the waning and increasing that energy back up by the time we get to the waxing, the new moon, the full moon. The new moon, it as being completely black. You couldn't see nothing. That's the time you put it in there and let it start charging. If you're in a waning concept, that more than likely was saying it was already depleting and you wasn't aware of it. So now that you're still in the waning moon, Take it off and wait till it's completely finished waning. Then put it in the new moon cycle of the moon on the windowsill. So if you put it in the windowsill, that's one way of charging it. If you look at crystalvault.com, that'll be a better way of knowing which specific uh, crystal can be put, whether it's in the moonlight, in the sunlight, whether you can plant it. You can put it in your pot to get a charge from the earth. You know what I mean? Because earth is definitely helpful for grounding. I would say if you're going to put it in the earth, particularly, put something on that ground so you won't forget where is it at. Because I've done that before and I did not find my pieces. So sometimes they just meant to be. They will either fall off. That's actually telling you the energy is depleted. And that don't mean put it back on. That means recharge it, then put it back on. If you're going to put it back on, it already did its purpose. So that's what most people find out, that the energy is already depleted, but you putting it back on is not, fixing anything. You're just putting on now energy that's not energized. The other thing, as far as cleaning, use lemon juice, lemon juice and water. Once you sit in lemon juice and water for about 5 to 10 minutes, take it out, make some dish liquid up, and wash it off. When you wash it off, that resin of the dish liquid should cleanse it strong enough to where it doesn't come back to fading back down. Usually you'll find out the ions is what makes it dark. So when you're out in, let's say, the beach has a lot of negative ions popping up. So it'll more than likely, if you got there at the beginning of the day and you had pink rosy, gold looking copper, and you went out there and all that salt flying, it's going to turn it. It's going to be brown by time middle of the day. And then if you say, okay, well, I'm going to clean it again during that same day, by the end of the night, it'll be back to brown again. I had to go through some experiences out there near the beach, and I see that that's where all the, from negative to positive ions, they sit and resonate, but they also, create a different outlook to how it's cleansing the earth. If you're near that beach, still please continuously stay hydrated, because it will drain you if you don't know. So that's another reason why we're doing this copper. And I had high blood pressure at 16. So coming out of the experience and then get married and not realize copper foods is what should have been said. However, since it wasn't, had me go further into the research and realize I'm wearing this copper, and it wasn't because of a lifestyle. I was wearing the copper because of it was cultural. Then I realized it's a lifestyle in it. And that's what had me go further into the research to say, okay, well, isn't copper foods? And it was like, yeah. And then isn't that copper based as like your skin? And it was like, yeah, you can see all the skin tones of copper in people. So it's not about a fashion. It's definitely a cultural thing, yet it's on a traditional level, to the fact that we were deficient from the skin tone, and now our skin is asking for some help. And if we don't help our skin, the skin will deteriorate. This is why we heard about COVID. This is why we know COVID is connected to a Greek god called Kronos. Kronos and COVID are connected. And why? Because COVID is the corona. They call it corona. Corona. So that corona or crown is about your skin, and how your skin at 18 to COVID-19, this stuff been happening. You think there wasn't a COVID-1 or COVID-2 or COVID-3? This is phases of the skin. So by your children, it's very important to give this to your children, 0 to 1. Your children by 18 to 19 will have COVID if they don't learn how to breathe properly, eat proper foods that deals with breathing techniques in it. I'm saying when you eat a lemon, you don't feel dehydrated from it. You get alkaline from it. Now, you can feel dehydrated from it if you don't add water to it. That's where the alkalinity and the base has a balance. That's why copper can be washed in lemon juice. Too much lemon will become acidic. So anything that we do it becomes too much acidic, it becomes what we call the base. And now it can mess your body up instead of help your body out. So that's why all this is important. It just followed by the signs, and they'll show you more of how the signs are telling you. I would say from a nonverbal to even a verbal conversation. And create. If you're a creator and if you like creating, come check me out. I don't mind giving my insights of how I figured out certain ways to maybe even hammer this down and shape these out to, originate your name, your amen better. You know what I'm saying? Certain things like this you will want to have around your foundation so that way it can protect even your child. Now, I get it. We said Jesus was my only protector, yet Jesus is spread it through everything. Jesus is justice. So if you don't see this justifying Christus in us, then it's like everything we basically doing is almost for no reason. You got to actually see yourself through it. This is what confession was about. Not just profession. You got to be a confession to these things you've done, not just a professional towards it. What's confessing you to do it? You know what I mean? And so that's what took me on to this walk. I give copper to the children so that they can at least get an insight of what this is. And so I do get some abundance. Some of it's not just an abundance, but when I got time, I become abundance towards our people. So I know I said a lot, and it's like 2 hours over the time frame. So, and I know this is our world, so we create our time, as my brother said. Um, and I guess this is that moment now where I'm saying I need to go ahead and put some nourishment in this foundational body and just go ahead and drop a smoothie in it. But even in fasting, that's a good way to do it. Drop a smoothie in, it ain't gonna hurt you. You get past your time frame, eat as light as possible. Find where when you wake up, start with the idea of drinking discipline. Whatever it is, discipline. I know some of us on the average will say, you'll wake up and eat like a king. That's not always a good quote. I would say if you're going to do that only one day out of the 7 days. That way, out of those 6, you're teaching yourself discipline. And that one day, yeah, you go ahead and do that. That's your 6 out of 7. You ain't going to be 100%, at least you're 90%. You know what I mean? That's your discipline. So with this discipline, you say, okay, drink water, drink tea. That's going to help me on my herbs level. Then get something green, chlorophyll type level. Put that in your body. Then go into your substance, what kind of stuff you want to eat, gravitate towards that. That helps. That is going to help you because it's a fuel finder to help you continue, as we were saying, the ether, your etheric way of thinking. Some people can't think without eating. So I get it. And it'll frustrate you sometimes, the people who haven't ate because they're frustrated. And so that's why they got to eat just like you getting frustrated. Don't let it frustrate you. Learn how to breathe techniques that's going to be important as well. So between the drinking and the air, that's water and that's air. And then, of course, the food that's coming from what? The earth. Now, the earth, is it fire food or is it earthly foods? That's where you're going to find your balance at. The more you do that, the more you're going to find your 5th elements are going to help you as the Allah, arm, leg, arm, head, to where, why is it a 6-pointed star? Because that was the grounding part. That was why man was able to ground himself. He put his rod into the earth and not being perverted by it. He was inverted, not perverted. We got a different perversion, so we didn't see the provision. Man is a provisionary, not just a provider. They put man to just provide, but that's just like a building that holds up a wall. I'm not these stilts or this pole. And don't my pole come down sometimes? So it's a bend about it. We're into the rainbow, not just a rain. We're into the raining the bow. So how do you rain your bow in situations? How do you bow down in situations? Don't bow out, but sometimes you might have to bow out because certain things aren't going the way you say. What we call it relativity. So now, are we relative? Yeah, man. I give thanks to you, bro. I'm gonna give you some sound and clear this whole area. You say out.
MindZ.
So if you got anything you want to ask me, let me know.
Nah, no, no, man. It was a solid show. Just wanted to know if we could put together maybe a cook show presentation, something maybe for the daytime, something whatever you want to do with that. And then you can cover like some elaboration on the foods or the other elements you're using as far as nutrition, and then
Okay.
just kind of get creative with it, a lot of creative with it, and hopefully we'll have a few guests coming through, this
Yeah.
specialist as well.
I do have a couple of sisters in mind that can help me also along with that on a cultural level when it comes down to culinary art. Um, and I've reached a certain goal in my life that I said that's why I had to reach into them so that it could be done. Because just like you and I, we've had this talk, and we say, "Man, where's the women that eat like this?" And it makes it susceptible to saying that that might be the only thing. We might have to show this. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe they don't know, and because they don't know, maybe it's something that was propaganda out to not know. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna diss anybody for how we're learning now. So it's definitely a beautiful enlightenment to learn. I'm learning how to fly in my dreams, so I get it. Like this stuff is, whew, and it could be intense. So I give thanks. Like I said, even the walk with having my children coming into this world, I never experienced no pain like that. I've never experienced cutting my stomach to get a child out. And both my children didn't have to go that way to come out in this world. Sad to say, it's happened to a lot of us. You know what I'm saying? And it makes it more of a cold, cold world. We won't realize how cold that doctor was when he cut that mama up just to get the child out and to say that he was part of it. So we definitely have some masculine and feminine correction going on and how we need to revise, our conscious community in a communal advertisement way. So yeah, visuals are going to be needed and necessary. Like I said, I want to break down that Vedic astrology so that y'all will know where you at as far as placement. I'm not going to break the whole book down because, as you see, this thing's pretty lengthy. Just like the other book, it wasn't as lengthy, but just to get into page 12 and to get to page 65, that would be a lot of you having to see the pictures and seeing the reality in order to keep up with me. So those type of things definitely going to have some more visuals for. But at least you know about the book. Like I said, get this book, put it up, let your children read on it. Um, there might be some revision, like I said, that needs to be done in your time frame because this was put out of Richmond or distributed out of Richmond. And but as far as the date is concerned, I don't see. Let me see. I think it might be a date in here. Somewhere. Yeah, 2000. So definitely revise. There's a revision already out this book for 2003. So they revised this book already once already. But
But
Suzar,
by the way,
powerful. Yes.
but real quick, by the way, Empress Star, the feminine energy, she has a sacred space thing coming up, and she's seeking some hosts and or some co-founders for that, the feminine space. You see what I'm saying? So if you could refer maybe a couple of in feminine energies that's available and ready for that, then
Okay.
that would be gratitude in advance type of thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because we are having a lot of sister circles happening, and it was unlikely to know that we didn't know. You still needed a man involved. So I'm one who have been chosen as like a bachelor spirit. I do come around and drum for y'all. So if you need drum circles to where I'm aware of how much I should be saying. So I'll just let y'all rule that because that's not let you rule it. You do rule it. The order, because the chaos started when man came in to create his own, mankind. However, if we can address the readdressing, now man can actually speak on that so that he won't, you know, be accepted. Because when we walk across the street and you see me, it's only if you gain the knowledge from our story, our heritage, would you say, oh, that man is going to be helpful and not be perverted. We've been inverted to so much, we've been perverted. So when we got our life lessons, maybe from our uncle or from our dad or even from our granddad, they might have taught us the perversion of it. And not everybody saying, well, that's how I'm going to live and I'm going to continue that. No, some of us came back in the aspect to say, no, I'm not going to have that going on. And I'm going to do my best to show difference. Because I have, like I said, I have a 3-year-old and she's a girl. So for her to be into my life, I'm seeing the phoenix, the dark phoenix, and how they black sheep a lot of our women and even my mom who went through these things. So we as men, not all of us are going to completely say, well, I ain't down with the women's circles. I'm actually one of those who are down up for the women's circles. And like they say, low key, we say high key is another way of looking at certain things. Lionheart, if you haven't looked at it, they're showing a lot of womanhood, just like the Marvels. They showed the same thing, Miss Marvel, a lot of womanhood. So how we bonding? This, I was saying that, getting back to that, the 8-pointed star is the Britain star. So if we don't pay attention, we're gonna go back to Britain again. So it's definitely needed and necessary for our sisters to have these circles, because she's the ruler of our planet right now, and she's gonna always be that until we, see different. That's why we've had hardships. That's why they call hell Helen. So there's a reason for that. You know what I'm saying? So yes, circles, I call them ciphers. Any ciphers you need me in, I'm for it. I'm like, that's what we're doing. We call it the KHC, the Communal Healing Ciphers. So we're gonna do our best here in this area. I am wanting to expand it all the way to Mississippi if I can do it, but that's my goal. So you heard it from here. And do what I got to do and advance our people, because that's what AI is for us. And with that said,
No doubt, G. Gratitude. So when would you like to do, another show? When they gonna see you again or whatever happens?
we can do it as early as next week. I just got to set up. I set up
You
with
say
the
you just got
system
to
so
set
we
up.
do a food thing. Yeah.
Mm.
I want
Okay,
to do that
okay.
food,
You,
concept with the sister, and I might have it available as next week. It just depends on how it go. But if she can't,
no,
I just do the Vedic astrology and then set that up next.
no worries, no worries, no worries. You say you had some couple of sound presentations for the viewers.
Well, I got a sound breathing technique I wanted to give y'all, so that way, in time you're around, you say, "Oh man, I didn't know what to do when this happened." You can do that now. All right. So, first of all, I was breathing. How do you breathe? One is in through your nose. Notice how I breathe like that. I took it strong. Right. I'm gonna do that again. 3, 2, 1. Breathing in. Now, what I'm doing is, as I'm breathing in, I'm feeling the bottom of my stomach. Most people don't tell you about that. So when they say breathe, it has to be a method of how you're doing it. Expand your stomach. So as I'm gonna do it again, breathing in, expanding my stomach. And I tapped on my stomach so I could feel the fulfillment in my stomach. Now I'm releasing it. And I'm releasing all of it so that I won't have nothing in there. So I tighten my stomach at this point and tighten my hips. And then I pause. And then I breathe in again. And we pause again. And then we breathe out. Notice how I'm using my mouth to breathe out. And then I tighten my hips. And then I breathe in. Now you keep that going while I hit this sound bowl. Just do your practicing on that. And we're going to end it off with this method I was going outward. I'm going the opposite, going inward now. Breathing in. I'm gonna do three sounds. Sounds with the lips closed. Breathing in the same method. Breathing in through the nose. And then the sound of 3, 2, 1. Breathing in. Last one. Breathing in. Score. Sukra. Sante Sana. So you know that there's methods behind breathing. That's one thing, but sound is also helpful. We only did one sound today. That was and the reason why I did only one, I usually do 3 or 4, but I did only one, so that at least you get an idea. Why do we start with the first? Is mother. Is sound to create out of the mother womb sound. So we mushed a lot of words together, but mouth was closed before it even opened up to anything. And so, uh, like myself, I was enlightened by the M, which we have M in our hand. So the M is not perverted. It's the actual location of reality for certain people. And uh, it's your symbol. Some of us got that symbol. And so to reinvent is not to reinvent anything, but to go more into it. So I give thanks to y'all. We'll see each other soon in the next lifetime. Shay, you give thanks. Respect.
Peace, God. Peace,
Peace out, y'all.
gratitude, man. All right, man. So give him that phone number one more time, man, just to make sure, man. Let me go and put the little music on in the background so we can rock out a little bit.
757-977-7791.
All right, peace. This has been another
See.
great show with Cosmic Mind, UV, and Buddha E. AG, bro, I'm gonna link up with you, and you know how we do, you know what I'm saying, as far as so we can get the feminine energies and things going, as far as collaboration with the sacred space as well. And as far as everything else, y'all, we got Who You With Wednesdays coming up this Wednesday, y'all, with Empress Star, and I'm the co-host for that. And peace. Thank you, Buddha E. Anything else, man? You have any lasting thoughts, any lasting words, etc.?
Yeah, we got the microphone in the hand now. So for our children, if you want me to come and do some music with them, we can make some music together. I got my karaoke machine, not karaoke machine itself, and I didn't think karaoke. I wanted to go into instrumentals. If we put an instrumental beat on and let them flow, you see what they can come up with. Me, I'm a freestylist, so I do freestylist on the mic, and so that way I could, like I said, you want me for a birthday event, I'll come over there to do some microphone challenges for your children and build their esteem up. 'Cause that's what we're here to build their esteem. So that's it. Ain't much to go on that. You know what I mean? I give thanks though. Respect. Peace.
All right, y'all. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. There's another show for you, B. Once again, if you would like to collaborate, on Cozmik Mind UV and do a live stream or it's your show just like that, just link up with me. Gratitude for Buddha E. Gratitude for the participation from Empress Star. Should take you far no matter where you are. Y'all make sure you, there's this cash app at the bottom. Make sure you hit this cash app with something, man. You know what I'm saying? Gratitude again. Bro, I'm going to send you this. Let me get you back up here.
Yes,
I'm gonna send you this, B. All right, G. All right, y'all. We out. Peace, y'all.
Peace.